A cold hand slid down her spine, slowly unzipping her dress. Angela froze, her breath catching in her throat. It wasn't Joshua's hand. The voice behind her was deep, unfamiliar, and icy. "He's not coming. I'm taking his place." She turned, meeting the icy blue eyes of a man she'd never met. In 5 minutes, the wedding had turned into a nightmare. Before sunset, Angela would no longer be a bride, a prisoner on a private plane, bound to the man who claimed her father had stolen millions of dollars from him. And now she would pay the price. Before we begin, I'd like to invite you to join me through this convoluted story. If you enjoy it, please like and comment the city you're currently viewing from, so I know how far this story has progressed. Now, let's step into the world of Angela and Luca. The dress was too tight. Angela Varelli stood in front of the full-length mirror, her breath shallow, fingers trembling as they hovered over the row of tiny pearl buttons running down her spine. The gown was beautiful, ivory lace, hand-stitched, French silk, everything a bride was supposed to want, but it felt like a straitjacket. She tried to reach behind herself again, failed again, and cursed under her breath. Where the hell is everyone? The bridal suite was supposed to be full of people. Bridesmaids, her mother, someone. Instead, it was silent. Just her and the ticking clock on the mantel. 15 minutes until the ceremony. Her heart hammered against her ribs. She heard the door open behind her. "Thank God," she breathed. "I need help with—" The words died. The hands that touched her back were not soft, not warm. They were large, steady, and cold even through the fabric. Angela froze, every nerve in her body screaming wrong. She didn't turn around, couldn't. The hands moved with precision, closing each button with the efficiency of someone who'd done this before. Not romantic. Mechanical. "Who? Don't move." The voice was male, low, accented, Italian maybe, but softened by years somewhere else. It wasn't Joshua. Angela's pulse spiked. She jerked forward, spinning around, and found herself staring at a man she'd never seen before in her life. He was tall, over 6 feet, broad-shouldered, wearing a tailored black suit that probably cost more than her car. Dark hair, sharp jaw, and eyes the color of frozen water. He looked at her the way a jeweler might appraise a diamond. Clinical, calculating, utterly detached. "Who the hell are you?" Angela's voice came out sharper than she intended, but fear had a way of sharpening things. "Luca Devereaux." He said it like she should know, like it explained everything. It didn't. "Get out." She took a step back, her heel catching the hem of her dress. "I'm calling security." "No, you're not." He didn't move, didn't raise his voice, just stood there, hands in his pockets, watching her with that unnerving calm. Joshua's not coming. The room tilted. "What?" "Your fiancé, he's not coming to the wedding." Luca's expression didn't change. "I am." Angela's mind stuttered. This had to be a joke, a prank. Joshua's groomsmen were idiots. This was exactly the kind of stupid stunt they'd pull. She forced a laugh, but it came out hollow. "Okay, funny. Tell Josh to get his ass in here and—" "Well, sure. Joshua Marks is currently in federal custody." Luca pulled a phone from his pocket, tapped the screen twice, and turned it toward her. "He was arrested 40 minutes ago. Fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy to commit wire fraud. The list is long." The screen showed a news article. Joshua's face, handcuffs. The headline used words like Ponzi scheme and investor losses exceeding $12 million. Angela's knees buckled. She grabbed the edge of the vanity to stay upright. "No." Her voice was barely a whisper. "That's not—" "He wouldn't—" "He did." Luca pocketed the phone. "And you're going to pay for it." "I don't even know you." "You don't need to." He stepped closer. Angela flinched, but he didn't touch her. Just stood there, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something dark and expensive. "Your father stole from me. $10 million. When he died, the debt transferred to you. My father's been dead for 3 years. I'm aware." "Then you're insane." Angela's hands were shaking so hard she had to clench them into fists. "I don't owe you anything. I don't even know what you're talking about." Luca tilted his head, studying her like she was a puzzle he was deciding whether to solve or destroy. "Your father, Vincent Varelli, worked for me. He managed logistics for my operations in the Southeast. In 2020, $10 million disappeared from an account in the Caymans. 2 weeks later, your father died in a car accident. Convenient. It wasn't. Angela's throat closed. She remembered that night. The police at the door. Her mother's scream. The funeral where no one would look her in the eye. It was an accident. Maybe. Luca's tone suggested he didn't believe that for a second. But the money's still gone, and Joshua was supposed to pay it back. Angela blinked. What? Your fiancé made a deal. He'd return what your father stole, and I'd forget the debt. Instead, he ran a con, lost everything, and now he's in a cell. Luca's eyes narrowed. Which leaves you. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening. Angela's wedding was supposed to start in 10 minutes. She was supposed to walk down the aisle, say her vows, start her life. Instead, she was standing in a room with a stranger who looked at her like she was a transaction. I don't have $10 million, she said, hating how small her voice sounded. I know. Then what do you want? Luca smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. You. The next hour passed in a blur. Luca made a phone call, short clipped sentences in Italian. Angela stood frozen, her mind racing through options. Scream, run, fight, but the door was locked, and when she tested the handle, it didn't budge. The window didn't open either. She was trapped. Sit down, Luca said, pocketing his phone. Screw you. He didn't react, just crossed the room, grabbed a chair, and placed it in front of her. Sit, or I'll make you sit. Angela sat. He stood in front of her, arms crossed, and for the first time she noticed the gun holstered under his jacket. Her stomach dropped. Here's what's going to happen, Luca said. In 20 minutes, a car will arrive. You'll get in it. We'll drive to the airport, board a plane, and by morning, you'll be in my home. You'll stay there until I decide what to do with you. You can't just kidnap me. I can. I am. His tone was matter-of-fact. Your guests downstairs think you've called off the wedding. Your mother's been told you're having a breakdown. No one's looking for you. Someone will. No one will. Luca leaned down, his face inches from hers. Your life as you knew it is over, Angela. The sooner you accept that, the easier this will be. Her breath hitched. She wanted to cry, to scream, to do something other than sit there like a doll. But fear had its hooks in her now, and all she could do was stare at him. Why me? She whispered. If Joshua's the one who… Because I don't give second chances. Luca straightened. And because you're the only leverage I have left. Fridge. The word hung in the air like smoke. Angela's mind spun. Her father was dead. Joshua was gone. And now this man, this stranger, was going to take her… Where? For what? She thought of her mother downstairs, probably hysterical by now, her friends, her life. Please, she said, and hated herself for it. I didn't do anything wrong. Luca's expression didn't change. Neither did I. The car was a black SUV with tinted windows. 2 men in suits flanked the vehicle, neither of them speaking as Luca opened the door and gestured for Angela to get in. She hesitated, scanning the street for help, but the venue was tucked away in a private estate. No one around. No witnesses. Move! Luca's voice was quiet, but it carried weight. Angela climbed in. The interior smelled like leather and air freshener. Luca slid in beside her, and the door slammed shut. The locks clicked. Drive, he said to the driver. The SUV pulled away from the curb, and Angela watched through the window as the venue, her wedding venue, disappeared behind a line of trees. Her throat burned. She wanted to cry, but her body wouldn't let her. Shock, maybe. Or survival instinct. Where are we going? She asked. I told you, the airport. And then? Luca didn't answer. He was staring at his phone, scrolling through messages with the detachment of someone checking email. Angela's hands clenched in her lap. You can't do this, she said again, louder this time. People will look for me. The police won't find you. Luca didn't look up. I've been doing this a long time, Angela. Longer than you've been alive. If I didn't want you found, you won't be. The certainty in his voice sent ice down her spine. She turned away, pressing her forehead against the cool glass of the window. Outside, Charleston rolled past. Familiar streets, familiar buildings, all of it slipping away like water through her fingers. She thought about jumping out at a red light, but the doors were locked. She thought about screaming, but who would hear her? By the time they reached the airport, Angela had stopped thinking altogether. The plane was small, sleek, and private. No security, no other passengers, just Luca, Angela, and a pilot who didn't ask questions. Angela climbed the stairs on shaking legs, her wedding dress dragging behind her like a ghost. Inside, the cabin was all cream leather and polished wood. It looked like something out of a magazine. Luca gestured to a seat. Sit. She obeyed, too numb to fight. He sat across from her, fastening his seatbelt as the engines roared to life. Angela stared at him, this stranger who'd ripped her life apart in the span of an hour. What happens when we land? She asked. Luca leaned back, eyes half closed. You'll find out. The plane began to taxi. Angela's hands gripped the armrest so hard her knuckles turned white. She thought about her mother, about Joshua, arrested, probably terrified, definitely lying. She thought about her father and the secrets he must have kept and the debt he'd left behind. And she thought about the man sitting across from her, who looked at her like she was nothing more than an asset to be managed. The plane lifted off. Below, the lights of Charleston faded into darkness. Angela closed her eyes and tried to breathe. The flight lasted 4 hours. Luca spent most of it on his laptop, typing with the kind of focus that suggested he'd already forgotten she was there. Angela didn't sleep. Couldn't. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Joshua's face on that news article, or her father's grave, or Luca's cold blue stare. Somewhere over the Atlantic, a flight attendant appeared, blonde, polished, professional, and offered Angela water, food, a blanket. Angela refused all of it. The attendant didn't push, just nodded and disappeared. You should eat, Luca said without looking up from his screen. I'm not hungry. You will be. Angela ignored him. She stared out the window instead, watching the clouds drift past in the moonlight. It felt surreal, like she'd stepped into someone else's nightmare. Where are we going? She asked again. This time Luca answered, Italy. Her stomach dropped. Italy? My estate is in Tuscany, remote, private. No one will bother us there. No one will find me there, you mean? Luca closed his laptop and looked at her. Really looked at her, for the first time since they'd boarded. His gaze was clinical, dissecting. You're not a prisoner, Angela. She laughed, sharp, bitter. Really? Because it sure feels like I am. You're collateral. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. There's a difference. Not from where I'm sitting. Luca's jaw tightened, just a fraction. The first crack in that perfect composure. Your father stole from me. Your fiancé tried to cheat me. You're the only thing left that has value. His voice was calm, but there was an edge to it now. So yes, you're coming with me. And yes, you'll stay until I decide otherwise. But you're alive. You're unharmed. And if you're smart, you'll stay that way. Angela's pulse hammered in her ears. She wanted to scream at him, to tell him he was a monster, a criminal, but the gun under his jacket stopped her. Instead, she turned back to the window and said nothing. They landed just before dawn. The airport was small, private, tucked into the rolling hills of Tuscany. No customs, no security, just a black car waiting on the tarmac, engine running. Angela stumbled down the plane's stairs, her legs stiff from sitting, her dress filthy and wrinkled. She looked like a disaster, felt like one too. Luca gestured to the car. Get in. She did. The drive took another hour, winding through narrow roads lined with cypress trees and stone walls. The sun rose slowly, painting the hills gold and amber. Under different circumstances, Angela might have thought it was beautiful. Now, it just felt like a cage with a prettier view. Finally, the car turned onto a long gravel driveway. At the end of it sat a villa, massive, ancient, all stone and iron and ivy. It looked like something out of a period drama, beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. The car stopped. Luca got out first, then opened Angela's door. Welcome home, he said. Angela stared at the villa, her heart sinking. This was real. This was happening. She stepped out of the car, her heels crunching on the gravel, and followed Luca toward the entrance. The door opened before they reached it. A woman stood in the doorway, middle-aged, stern-faced, wearing a black dress and an expression that suggested she didn't smile often. "This is Maria," Luca said. "She runs the house. You'll do what she says." Maria's eyes flicked over Angela, taking in the wedding dress, the smudged makeup, the barely concealed panic. Her expression didn't change. "Follow me," she said in accented English. Angela glanced at Luca. He nodded. She followed Maria inside. The villa was a labyrinth, high ceilings, marble floors, hallways that seemed to stretch forever. Maria led Angela up a staircase, down another corridor, and finally stopped in front of a heavy wooden door. "Your room," Maria said, pushing it open. The room was large, elegant, and clearly expensive. A four-poster bed, a fireplace, windows overlooking the hills. It should have been comforting. Instead, it felt like a gilded cage. "Bathroom is through there." Maria pointed to another door. "I'll bring you something to eat." "I'm not hungry," Maria shrugged. "I'll bring it anyway." She left, closing the door behind her. Angela heard the lock click. She was alone. For a long moment, she just stood there, staring at the room, trying to process everything that had happened in the last 12 hours. Her wedding, Joshua's arrest, Luca, the plane, Italy. It was too much. Her legs gave out. She sank onto the edge of the bed, her hands shaking, her breath coming in short, sharp gasps. She wanted to cry, wanted to scream, but nothing came out. Just silence. She sat there for what felt like hours, staring at the floor, until exhaustion finally dragged her under. When Angela woke, the room was dark. She sat up, disoriented, her head pounding. For a second, she thought she was home. Then she remembered. Luca. The villa. Italy. Her stomach twisted. She stood, wobbling slightly, and crossed to the window. Outside, the hills were bathed in moonlight. Beautiful. Empty. She tried the window. Locked. Of course. She turned back to the room, scanning for anything she could use. A phone, a weapon, an exit. But there was nothing, just furniture and silence. A knock at the door made her jump. "Come in," she said, hating how weak her voice sounded. The door opened. Maria stepped inside, carrying a tray. "You need to eat," she said, setting it on a small table by the window. Angela didn't move. "I'm not hungry." "You will eat." Maria's tone left no room for argument. "Mr. Devereaux's orders." Angela's jaw tightened. "I don't care what he eat." Maria's gaze was hard. "Or I'll tell him you're being difficult. And trust me, girl, you don't want that." Angela stared at her. Then slowly, she crossed to the table and sat down. The tray held bread, cheese, fruit, and water. Simple, but more than she'd had in the last day. Her stomach growled despite itself. She ate in silence. Maria watched from the doorway, arms crossed. "Why are you helping him?" Angela asked between bites. Maria's expression didn't change. "I work for him." "That's not an answer." "It's the only one you'll get." Angela set down the bread, her appetite gone. "He's keeping me prisoner." "He's keeping you alive." Maria's voice was flat. "You should be grateful." "Grateful?" Angela's voice rose. "He kidnapped me. He could have killed you." Maria stepped forward, her eyes sharp. "Men like Mr. Devereaux don't take prisoners unless there's a reason. You're here because he wants you here. That means you're valuable, and valuable things stay alive." Angela's blood ran cold. "What does he want from me?" Maria turned toward the door. "That's between you and him." She left, locking the door behind her. Angela sat alone in the dark, her mind racing. Valuable. The word echoed in her head, over and over, until she thought she might scream. The next morning, Maria woke her early. "Get dressed," she said, tossing a bundle of clothes onto the bed. "Mr. Devereaux wants to see you." Angela didn't move. "What if I refuse?" Maria's expression was answer enough. Angela dressed slowly. Jeans, a plain shirt, nothing like the wedding gown she'd worn yesterday. She caught a glimpse of herself in the mirror. Her hair was a mess. Her face was pale. She looked like a stranger. Maria led her downstairs through more hallways until they reached a set of double doors. Maria knocked once, then opened them. "Inside," she said. Angela stepped through. The room was an office, large, dark wood, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves. Luca sat behind a desk, reading something on his laptop. He didn't look up. "Sit," he said. Angela sat. For a long moment he didn't speak, just kept reading, as if she wasn't there. Angela's hands clenched in her lap. Finally he closed the laptop and looked at her. "How did you sleep?" "Like a prisoner." Luca's mouth twitched, almost a smile. "You're not a prisoner." "Then let me leave." "No." Angela's nails dug into her palms. "What do you want from me?" Luca leaned back in his chair, studying her. "That depends." "On what?" "On whether you're useful." Angela's breath caught. "Useful how?" Luca stood, crossing to the window. Outside, the hills stretched endlessly. "Your father worked for me for 15 years. He knew things, routes, contacts, accounts. When he died, that knowledge died with him, or so I thought." He turned back to her. "But you were close to him. You might know more than you think." "I don't know anything. We'll see." Angela's stomach dropped. "You're going to torture me?" Luca's expression darkened. "I don't torture women." "Just kidnap them." His jaw tightened. "You're here because you're leverage. If you cooperate, you'll be treated well. If you don't—" He trailed off, letting the threat hang in the air. Angela swallowed hard. "And if I can't give you what you want?" Luca's gaze was ice. "Then you'd better hope you're worth keeping alive for other reasons." The weight of his words settled over her like a shroud. Angela stood, her legs shaking, and met his eyes. "I'm not afraid of you." It was a lie. They both knew it. Luca stepped closer, close enough that she could feel the heat of him, smell that dark cologne again. "You should be," he said softly. Then he walked past her, opened the door, and left her standing there alone. Fuck. The days blurred together after that. Angela was kept in the villa, her movements restricted to her room and a small garden outside. Maria brought her meals. Luca appeared occasionally, asking questions she couldn't answer, about her father, about Joshua, about accounts and deals she'd never heard of. She told him the truth. She didn't know. He didn't believe her. "Your father loved you," Luca said one afternoon, his tone almost conversational. "He wouldn't have kept you in the dark." "He did." Angela's voice was flat. "He never talked about work." "Everyone talks about work." "Not him." Luca studied her, then nodded slowly. "All right." He didn't ask again after that, but he didn't let her go either. Angela spent her time searching for a way out, testing windows, checking doors, watching the guards who patrolled the grounds. But the villa was a fortress, and Luca had thought of everything. She was trapped. And the worst part? She was starting to realize something that terrified her more than anything else. Luca wasn't a monster. He was careful, controlled. He didn't raise his voice, didn't threaten her outright, didn't touch her except when necessary. He was cold, yes, ruthless, absolutely. But he wasn't cruel, and that made him so much more dangerous. Ditch. 2 weeks in, Angela was sitting in the garden when Luca appeared. "Walk with me," he said. It wasn't a request. They walked in silence through the grounds, past rows of olive trees and stone walls. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. It should have been peaceful. "Why are you doing this?" Angela asked finally. Luca didn't answer right away, just kept walking, his hands in his pockets. "Because I don't forgive debts," he said eventually. "My father's dead. Joshua's in prison. Who's left to punish?" "You." Angela stopped walking. "I didn't do anything." Luca turned to face her, his expression unreadable. "You existed. That's enough." The words hit her like a slap. "That's insane." "That's business." Angela shook her head, anger flaring in her chest. "You're not a businessman. You're a criminal." Luca's eyes narrowed. "And you're the daughter of a thief. We all play the hand we're dealt." "I didn't ask for this." "Neither did I." His voice was quiet, but there was an edge to it. "Your father stole from me. That's a fact. Whether you knew about it or not doesn't change what I lost. Angela's hands clenched into fists. So what? You're going to keep me here forever? Until I decide otherwise. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting. They stared at each other, the air between them crackling with tension. Finally, Luca turned and walked away. Angela stood there, alone in the fading light, and realized something that chilled her to the bone. She wasn't getting out of this. Not unless she found a way to make herself indispensable, or unless she destroyed him first. That night, Angela lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Her mind raced, piecing together fragments of conversations, searching for weaknesses. Luca was careful, but no one was perfect. She just had to find the crack. And when she did, she'd drive a wedge straight through it. Outside, the wind howled through the hills, and somewhere in the darkness, Angela heard a door slam. She closed her eyes and made herself a promise. She was going to survive this. And then she was going to make Luca Devereaux regret the day he ever laid eyes on her. Angela woke to the sound of shouting. It came from somewhere below her window, muffled but sharp enough to cut through the morning fog in her head. She sat up, heart already racing, and crossed to the glass. Down in the courtyard, two men stood facing each other, one of them Luca, the other a stocky guy in a leather jacket she'd never seen before. Their voices were too low to make out words, but their body language screamed conflict. Luca's shoulders were rigid, his jaw tight. The other man jabbed a finger at his chest. Then Luca moved. It was fast. So fast, Angela almost missed it. 1 second the man was yelling, the next he was on the ground. Luca's knee pressed into his spine, one arm twisted behind his back at an angle that made Angela wince. Luca said something. The man went still. Then Luca stood, brushed off his pants, and walked away like nothing had happened. Two guards appeared from nowhere, hauling the man to his feet and dragging him toward a side gate. Angela stepped back from the window, pulse hammering. She'd seen violence before, bar fights, street altercations, the kind of thing that happened in Charleston on a Saturday night. But this was different, controlled, professional. Luca hadn't been angry. He'd been efficient. That scared her more than rage ever could. The door to her room opened without a knock. Maria stood there, her face unreadable as always. "Breakfast," she said. "I'm not hungry." "You'll eat anyway." "Downstairs." 10 minutes. Maria left before Angela could argue. Angela dressed quickly, pulling on jeans and a sweater Maria had left in the closet. Everything fit perfectly, which meant Luca had planned this, had her sizes, had thought ahead. The idea made her skin crawl. She found her way downstairs, following the smell of coffee and bread. The dining room was smaller than she expected, intimate almost. A long table set for two. Luca sat at one end, reading a newspaper, a cup of espresso steaming beside him. He didn't look up when she entered. "Sit," he said. Angela sat at the opposite end, as far from him as the table allowed. A plate appeared in front of her, eggs, toast, fruit. She stared at it. "Who was that man?" she asked. Luca turned a page. "No one you need to worry about." He looked pretty worried. He made a mistake. Luca's tone was flat. Mistakes have consequences. Angela picked up her fork, then set it down again. "What kind of mistake?" "The expensive kind." Luca folded the paper and finally looked at her. "He tried to skim from a shipment. Thought I wouldn't notice." "Did you kill him?" "Not yet." The casual way he said it made Angela's stomach turn. "You're insane." Luca took a sip of his espresso. "I'm practical. There's a difference." "No, there really isn't." He smiled, just a flicker, gone as fast as it came. "Eat, Angela. You'll need your strength." "For what?" "You're coming with me today." Her fork clattered against the plate. "Where?" "Florence. I have business. You'll accompany me." "Why?" Luca stood, buttoning his jacket. "Because I don't trust you alone. And because you need to understand what world you're living in now." He glanced at his watch. "We leave in 20 minutes. Wear something nice." He walked out before she could respond. The drive to Florence took an hour. Angela sat in the back of the SUV, Luca beside her, staring out the window as the Tuscan hills gave way to highways and urban sprawl. Neither of them spoke. The silence was suffocating. Florence hit her like a slap, beautiful and chaotic, All narrow streets and ancient buildings and tourists everywhere. The SUV navigated through traffic with aggressive precision, finally stopping in front of a sleek, modern building that looked wildly out of place among the Renaissance architecture. Luca got out. Angela hesitated. "Move," he said. She moved. Inside, the building was all glass and steel. A receptionist greeted Luca in rapid Italian, her smile bright and professional. He responded without breaking stride, heading for an elevator. Angela hurried to keep up. "What is this place?" she asked as the doors closed. "A bank? Private accounts? Offshore holdings?" Luca adjusted his cufflinks. "The kind of place your father would have appreciated." Angela's jaw tightened. "Stop talking about him like you knew him." "I knew him better than you did." "You didn't know him at all." Luca turned to her, and for the first time there was something other than ice in his eyes. Anger, maybe, or something close to it. "Your father worked for me for 15 years. I knew his habits, his weaknesses. I knew he had a gambling problem he hid from your mother. I knew he was sleeping with his assistant for 3 of those years. I knew he drank too much and lied too easily and was terrified of dying poor." Luca's voice was low, controlled. "So don't tell me I didn't know him." Angela felt like she'd been punched. "You're lying." "I'm not." The elevator doors opened. Luca stepped out. Angela stayed frozen, her breath coming in short, sharp gasps. "Move," Luca said again, quieter this time. She moved. The meeting was in a conference room overlooking the Arno River. 3 men in expensive suits sat around a table, their expressions carefully neutral. Luca greeted them in Italian, shook hands, gestured for Angela to sit in a chair against the wall. "Stay quiet," he murmured. She sat. For the next hour, Angela watched Luca work. It was like watching a surgeon, precise, methodical, ruthless. He spoke in Italian mostly, occasionally switching to English when one of the men struggled. Numbers were thrown around, documents were signed. At one point, one of the men raised his voice. Luca responded with a single sentence, his tone so cold the man went pale and shut up. Angela didn't understand the details, but she understood the dynamic. These men were afraid of him, and Luca knew it. When it was over, the men left quickly. Luca stayed seated, reviewing papers, making notes. "What was that about?" Angela asked. "Expansion. New routes through Eastern Europe." He didn't look up. "Profitable? If managed correctly." "You mean illegal?" "I mean profitable." Angela stood, crossing to the window. Below, Florence buzzed with life. Tourists, vendors, street musicians, normal people living normal lives. She felt so far removed from that now it might as well have been another planet. "Why did you bring me here?" she asked. Luca set down his pen. "To show you." "Show me what?" "What I do. What your father did. The world you've been living off of, without even knowing it." He stood, joining her at the window. "Your college tuition? Paid for with money your father skimmed from my accounts. Your mother's house? Same. That car you drove, the vacations you took, all of it came from me. Indirectly, maybe. But it came from me." Angela's throat tightened. "I didn't know." Ignorance isn't innocence. She turned to face him, anger flaring. "So what? I'm guilty by association? I'm supposed to pay for his mistakes because I didn't ask enough questions?" "Yes." The single word hit her like a gunshot. "That's not fair." Luca's expression didn't change. "Life isn't fair, Angela. The sooner you accept that, the easier this will be." "Easier for who?" "Both of us." They stared at each other, the air crackling with tension. Angela wanted to scream at him, to hit him, to do something other than stand there feeling powerless. But she didn't. Because somewhere in the back of her mind, a thought was forming. He'd brought her here for a reason. To intimidate her, yes, but also to test her, to see how she'd react, which meant he was watching her, evaluating her, which meant she had leverage, even if she didn't fully understand it yet. Angela forced herself to breathe, to calm down, to think. "Okay," she said quietly. Luca's eyes narrowed. "Okay, what?" "You win. I get it. My father screwed you over. I'm collateral. You're in charge." She met his gaze, held it. "What do you want me to do?" For a long moment, Luca said nothing, just studied her, like he was trying to decide if she was serious or playing him. Finally, he nodded. Come on, we're done here. They had lunch at a cafe overlooking the Duomo. Luca ordered for both of them without asking what she wanted. Angela didn't complain. She was too busy thinking. The food came, pasta, wine, bread. Luca ate in silence. Angela picked at her plate. You said my father had secrets, she said eventually. Luca glanced up. He did. Tell me. Why? Because I want to know. She set down her fork. You said I lived off his money. Fine. I want to know where it came from, what he did, all of it. Luca leaned back, considering. Why the sudden curiosity? Because if I'm stuck in this, I want to understand it. He smiled, small, almost approving. Your father moved product for me. Drugs, mostly. Some weapons. He managed logistics, routes, bribes, contacts. He was good at it. Too good, maybe. He started thinking he was smarter than me. Was he? No. Luca's tone was absolute. But he thought he was. So he skimmed. A little at first, then more. By the time I noticed, he'd taken 10 million and hidden it so well even I couldn't find it. Angela's mind raced. And then he died. And then he died. Luca took a sip of wine. Convenient timing. You think someone killed him? I know someone did. Angela's breath caught. Who? Luca shrugged. Could have been a rival. Could have been one of my own people who wanted to cover their tracks. Could have been Joshua. Joshua wasn't even... Joshua was working for your father. Luca's gaze was sharp. He didn't tell you that, did he? Angela felt the ground shift beneath her. No. Joshua Marks was laundering money for your father through his investment firm. When your father died, Joshua took over the operation. That's how you two met. He wasn't some random guy at a charity event. He targeted you. Angela's hands started shaking. She gripped the edge of the table. You're lying. I'm not. You have to be. Luca pulled out his phone, tapped a few times, and slid it across the table. On the screen was a photo, Joshua and her father, sitting in a restaurant laughing over drinks. The timestamp said 2019, a year before they'd met. Angela stared at the photo, her mind refusing to process it. He played you, Luca said quietly. From the beginning. He needed access to your father's accounts, his contacts. You were the key. No. Angela's voice was barely a whisper. He loved me. He loved what you could give him. Luca took the phone back. And when he couldn't deliver on his promises to me, he ran, left you to clean up his mess. Angela stood abruptly, the chair scraping against the floor. Heads turned. She didn't care. I need air. She walked out of the cafe, into the crowded street, her chest tight, her vision blurring. People moved past her in a blur of color and sound. She kept walking, no destination, just movement. Luca caught up to her a block later, his hand closing around her arm. Let go, she said. No. Let go or I'll scream. Go ahead. His grip didn't loosen. No one here will help you. Angela tried to pull away. He held firm. Stop running, he said. I'm not. You are. His voice was quiet, almost gentle. You've been running from the truth since the moment I told you about your father. But you can't run anymore, Angela. It's time to face it. She stopped struggling, her breath coming in ragged gasps. I don't know how. Yes, you do. Luca released her arm. You're stronger than you think. Angela looked up at him, tears stinging her eyes. Why do you care? I don't. But the way he said it, hesitant, uncertain, suggested otherwise. They stood there in the middle of the street, surrounded by strangers, and for a moment, Angela saw something in his face she hadn't seen before. Doubt. Then it was gone, replaced by that cold mask. Come on, he said. We're going back. The drive back to the villa was silent. Angela stared out the window, her mind a storm. Every memory of Joshua was tainted now, every smile, every touch, every promise. Had any of it been real? Or had she been a mark from day one? And her father? The man she'd idolized, mourned, grieved for 3 years. A criminal, a liar, a cheat. She didn't know who she was anymore. When they arrived, Luca walked her to her room, then paused at the door. "Get some rest," he said. "I'm fine." "You're not." He studied her for a moment. "But you will be." He left. Angela stood alone in her room, staring at nothing, feeling everything. Then she started searching. Okay. It took her 2 hours to find it. The room had been cleaned too well. No personal items, no clutter, nothing that suggested anyone actually lived there. But Maria had missed something, a loose floorboard near the bed. Angela pried it up with a butter knife from breakfast and found a small metal box underneath. Inside was a phone. Old, probably a burner, but charged. Her hands shook as she powered it on. No service, of course not. Luca wouldn't be that careless. But there was a contact list, and at the top, a single name, V, her father's initial. Angela's breath hitched. She opened the message thread. The last text was from 3 years ago, the day before he died. "It's done. Money's moved. He'll never find it." Below that, a response from a number she didn't recognize. "You sure?" "Positive." "I'm out." Angela stared at the screen, her pulse pounding. Her father had stolen the money, hidden it, and someone had helped him. She scrolled through the rest of the messages, piecing together fragments of a plan, account numbers, locations, names she didn't recognize. And then, near the bottom, one message that made her blood run cold. "If anything happens to me, give the account info to Angela. She'll know what to do." Angela dropped the phone. Her father had left her the money, which meant Luca was right. She wasn't just collateral. She was the key. She didn't tell Luca about the phone. For the next 3 days, she played the role of obedient captive. Ate when told, stayed in her room, didn't ask questions. And all the while, she studied the messages, memorized the account numbers, tried to figure out where the money was hidden. Luca noticed the change. "You're being cooperative," he said one evening over dinner. "I'm tired of fighting." "No, you're not." He set down his fork. "You're planning something." Angela met his gaze, her expression carefully neutral. "I don't know what you're talking about." Luca leaned forward. "Yes, you do. You're smarter than I gave you credit for. That's dangerous." "For who?" "Both of us." They stared at each other, the tension thick enough to choke on. Then Luca stood. "Come with me." "Where?" "You'll see." He led her through the villa, down a hallway she'd never been in before, to a door at the end. He unlocked it and gestured inside. The room was an office, but not like the one she'd seen before. This one was full of monitors, maps, files stacked on every surface. A war room. "This is where I work," Luca said, "where I plan, where I make decisions that affect thousands of people." He crossed to a map of Europe, dotted with pins. Every red pin is a route. Every blue pin is a contact. Every black pin is a problem. Angela scanned the map. There were a lot of black pins. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because I want you to understand what's at stake." Luca turned to face her. "I don't just run a business, Angela. I run an empire. And empires don't survive on mercy. They survive on control." "So you're warning me." "I'm educating you." Angela stepped closer to the map, studying the pins. "What happens if you lose control?" "I don't." "But if you did?" Luca's jaw tightened. "Then people die." Angela turned to him, her heart pounding. "Including me?" For a long moment he didn't answer, just looked at her, his expression unreadable. "That depends on you," he said finally. "On whether I'm useful. On whether you're loyal." Angela's breath caught. There was something in his voice, something raw, almost vulnerable, like he was asking a question he didn't want the answer to. "Loyalty has to be earned," she said quietly. "I know." "So earn it." Luca stepped closer, close enough that she could see the flecks of gray in his blue eyes. "How?" Angela's pulse hammered in her ears. She was playing with fire now, and she knew it, but she also knew this was her chance, to shift the dynamic, to stop being a victim and start being a player. "Tell me the truth," she said, "about my father, about Joshua, about why you really brought me here." Luca's expression hardened. I told you. You told me a version, not the whole story. Angela held his gaze. If you want loyalty, give me honesty. For a moment, she thought he'd shut down, walk away, lock her back in her room and forget this conversation ever happened. But he didn't. Instead, he exhaled slowly and nodded. All right. He crossed to a cabinet, pulled out a file, and handed it to her. Read. Angela opened it. Inside were photos. Her father, Joshua, a dozen other men she didn't recognize. Bank statements, wire transfers, contracts, and at the bottom, a death certificate, her father's. Except the cause of death wasn't listed as an accident. It was listed as homicide. Angela's hands shook. Who killed him? Luca's voice was quiet. I don't know, but whoever did wanted it to look like an accident, which means they had resources, connections. He paused. Which means they're still out there. Angela looked up at him, her mind reeling. And you think I know who? I think your father told you something before he died, even if you don't realize it. He didn't. Think, Angela. Luca stepped closer. A man about to die doesn't just vanish $10 million and hope for the best. He leaves a trail, a clue, something. Angela's thoughts raced back to that last conversation with her father. The hospital, the machines beeping, his hand in hers. Take care of your mother and yourself. Don't trust anyone. She'd thought he was delirious, but now... He said something, she whispered. Luca went still. What? Right before he died, he said, the garden remembers. Luca frowned. What does that mean? I don't know. I thought he was confused. He wasn't. Luca's voice was sharp. Where's the garden? My mother's house, in Charleston. She has a rose garden out back. My father built it for her. Luca was already moving, pulling out his phone. We're going to Charleston. Angela's stomach dropped. What? No, I can't. You can. And you will. He turned to her, his expression hard. If the money's there, I want it, and you're going to help me find it. My mother will be fine, as long as you cooperate. Angela's pulse pounded. This was spiraling out of control, but she also realized something else. If they went to Charleston, she'd be home, on familiar ground, with options. Okay, she said. Luca's eyes narrowed. Just like that? Just like that. Angela forced herself to breathe. But I have conditions. You're not in a position to make conditions. Then you're not in a position to find the money. Luca's jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. What do you want? I want to see my mother, alone, for 10 minutes. No? 5 minutes. No. Then I'm not helping you. They stared at each other, locked in a silent battle of wills. Finally, Luca exhaled. 3 minutes. I'll be watching. Fine. He extended his hand. Deal? Angela hesitated. Then she took his hand. Deal. His grip was firm, warm, and when their eyes met, something passed between them. An understanding, maybe, or a challenge. Angela wasn't sure which scared her more. They left for Charleston the next morning. The flight was tense. Luca worked on his laptop. Angela stared out the window, trying to plan. She had 3 minutes with her mother, 3 minutes to warn her, to figure out what the garden remembers meant, to maybe find a way out of this. But every time she glanced at Luca, she saw that cold, calculating expression, and she knew. He wouldn't let her go. Not until he got what he wanted. The plane touched down just after noon. A car was waiting. They drove through Charleston in silence, the familiar streets feeling foreign now. Angela's chest tightened as they turned onto her mother's block. The house looked the same, small, tidy, the rose garden out back visible from the street. Luca parked across the road. 3 minutes, he said, starting when you knock on the door. Angela nodded and got out. Her legs felt weak as she crossed the street, climbed the porch steps, and rang the bell. The door opened. Her mother stood there, older than Angela remembered, her face pale with shock. Angela? Hi, Mom. Her mother pulled her into a hug so tight Angela could barely breathe. Where have you been? I've been calling, texting. No one knew where you were. I know. I'm sorry. Are you okay? Did he hurt you? Angela pulled back. Who? Her mother's eyes were red, frantic. Joshua. The police said he was arrested and then you disappeared and I thought, I'm fine, Mom. I promise. Angela glanced back at the car. Luca was watching. But I need to ask you something. Fast. What? Dad, before he died, did he ever say anything about the garden? Her mother frowned. The garden. Yes, the garden remembers. Did he ever say that? Her mother's face went pale. How do you know about that? Angela's pulse spiked. So he did say it. Angela, what's going on? Mom, please, just tell me, what does it mean? Her mother glanced past her out to the street, and her expression shifted. Fear, recognition. Who is that man? It doesn't matter. Mom, please. It's him, isn't it? Her mother's voice was shaking. The one your father worked for. Angela's blood ran cold. You knew? Of course I knew. Her mother's eyes filled with tears. I begged him to stop, to walk away, but he wouldn't listen. He thought he could outsmart them, and now, Mom. Angela gripped her shoulders. What does the garden remembers mean? Her mother hesitated. Then she leaned close, her voice barely a whisper. Under the fountain, there's a box. Angela's heart stopped. What's in it? I don't know. He told me never to open it, to leave it there until you came looking. A horn honked. Luca. Time was up. Angela hugged her mother one last time. I have to go. Angela, wait. I'll be okay. I promise. She didn't wait for a response, just turned and walked back to the car, her mind racing. Luca was watching her as she climbed in. Well? Angela forced herself to breathe. The fountain. In the garden. There's something buried under it. Luca's eyes gleamed. Then let's dig. They moved fast. Luca had tools in the trunk. Shovels, crowbars, things Angela didn't want to think about. They slipped through the side gate into the backyard. The garden was overgrown now, roses wilting in the summer heat. In the center stood a stone fountain, dry and covered in moss. Luca handed her a shovel. Dig? Angela dug. The ground was hard, packed clay. Sweat dripped down her back, her hands blistered. But she kept going, driven by something she couldn't name, fear maybe, or hope, or just the desperate need to know. After 20 minutes, the shovel hit something solid, metal. Luca dropped to his knees, scraping away dirt with his bare hands. A metal box emerged, small, rusted, locked with a combination padlock. He pulled out a tool, snapped the lock, and opened it. Inside was a USB drive and a single piece of paper. Luca unfolded the paper. His expression went dark. What is it? Angela asked. He handed it to her. It was a letter, in her father's handwriting. If you're reading this, I'm dead. And if you're with Devereaux, you know why. The money's on the drive. All of it. 10 million. Account numbers, passwords, everything. Give it to him. End this. But Angela, whatever you do, don't let him know the truth. He'll kill you if he finds out you knew all along. Angela's hands shook. Luca stood slowly, his eyes locked on her. You knew. No. You knew about the money. You've known this whole time. I didn't. I swear, you... Don't lie to me! His voice was a roar echoing through the garden. Angela stumbled back, her heart pounding. I didn't know. I swear I didn't... Luca grabbed her arm, his grip like iron. Your father left you everything, which means you're not collateral. His voice was low, dangerous. You're the thief. No. Give me one reason I shouldn't kill you right now. Angela's breath came in gasps. Her mind raced, searching for words, for anything that would save her. And then she saw it, in his eyes, behind the rage. Doubt. Because you don't want to, she whispered. Luca went still. What? You don't want to kill me. If you did, I'd already be dead. Angela forced herself to meet his gaze. But you haven't, which means I'm worth more to you alive. His grip tightened. Don't test me. I'm not. Angela's voice steadied. I'm telling you the truth. I didn't know about the money, but I do now. And if you kill me, you'll never know if there's more. If my father hid something else. If there's someone else involved. Luca's jaw clenched. You're lying. Maybe. But you can't be sure. Angela leaned closer, her heart hammering. So you have a choice. Kill me and lose everything, or keep me alive and find out. For a long, agonizing moment, he didn't move. Then slowly he released her. Angela staggered back, gasping. Luca picked up the USB drive, pocketed it, and turned away. Get in the car. Angela didn't argue. As they drove away from her mother's house, away from Charleston, away from everything she'd ever known, Angela realized something that terrified and thrilled her in equal measure. She'd just crossed a line, and there was no going back. The flight back to Italy felt like flying into a tomb. Angela sat rigid in her seat, hands clenched so tight her nails drew blood from her palms. Across from her, Luca hadn't said a word since they'd left Charleston. He'd plugged the USB drive into his laptop the moment they boarded, and for the last 2 hours he'd been reading. His face was unreadable, stone, carved from ice. Angela watched him through her lashes, trying to gauge what he was thinking. The letter from her father sat like a grenade between them, pin already pulled. She'd told the truth. She hadn't known about the money until today. But Luca didn't believe her. She could see it in the set of his jaw, the way his fingers drummed against the armrest. Finally, he looked up. $10 million. His voice was quiet, deadly. Distributed across 14 accounts. Cayman Islands, Switzerland, Singapore. Your father was thorough. Angela swallowed. I didn't know. So you've said. Luca closed the laptop with a soft click. But here's what I find interesting. Every single account was opened after you turned 18. Every transaction routed through shell companies with your name buried in the paperwork. Your signature on half the documents. Angela's stomach dropped. That's impossible. I never signed anything. Your signature says otherwise. Then it's forged. Luca pulled out a folder from his bag, opened it, and slid a document across to her. Angela's breath stopped. It was a bank form from 2019. Her signature at the bottom. Perfect. Unmistakable. I didn't sign this, she whispered. Then who did? I don't know. My father? Joshua? Her voice cracked. I don't know. Luca leaned forward, his eyes boring into hers. Here's what I think happened. Your father knew he was being watched, knew I was getting close. So he set up a failsafe. He put everything in your name, forged your signatures, made it look like you were complicit. That way, if anything happened to him, you'd be the one holding the bag. Angela shook her head, tears stinging her eyes. He wouldn't do that to me. He did. Luca's tone was flat. And now you're going to help me recover every penny, starting the moment we land. How? You're going to access those accounts. Transfer the funds. Clean this mess up. I can't. I don't have the passwords. You'll figure it out. Luca stood, buttoning his jacket. Because if you don't, I'll assume you're lying, and then we'll have a very different conversation. He walked toward the front of the plane, leaving Angela alone in the suffocating silence. She stared at the document, her father's ghost staring back at her from every line of forged ink. What had he done? They landed in Florence just after midnight. The villa was dark when they arrived, only a few lights burning in the lower windows. Maria met them at the door, her expression as stern as ever, but she said nothing as Luca led Angela upstairs. He didn't take her to her usual room. Instead, he unlocked a door at the end of the hall, one she'd never seen open before, and gestured inside. Your new accommodations, he said. Angela stepped in and froze. It wasn't a bedroom, it was an office. Desk, computer, filing cabinets. And on the walls, printed documents, bank statements, wire transfers, surveillance photos. Her face appeared in at least a dozen of them. Her father's in more. What is this? Your case file. Luca closed the door behind them. I've been tracking your father's movements for 3 years. Tracking you for almost as long. Angela turned to him, her pulse hammering. You've been watching me? Of course. Luca crossed to the desk, tapped the keyboard to wake the computer. I needed to know if you were involved, if you knew where the money went. And I still don't know. He pulled out a chair. Sit. Angela sat. Luca opened a program on the computer, some kind of financial software. Account numbers scrolled across the screen, each one flagged with her name. Start with this one. He pointed to the first account. Access code is in your father's letter. Try it. Angela's hand shook as she typed. The system prompted for a password. She tried her birthday. Nothing. Her mother's birthday. Nothing. Her father's. The screen flashed green. Access granted. Balance $743,892.14. Angela stared at the number, her stomach churning. Good, Lucas said. Now transfer it. Where? He rattled off an account number. Angela typed it in, her fingers numb. Confirm, Lucas said. She hesitated. Do it. Angela hit enter. The funds transferred in seconds. Lucas smiled, cold, triumphant. 13 more to go. What? They worked through the night. Account after account, Angela accessed and emptied them, watching millions of dollars flow into Luca's control. He stood behind her the entire time, close enough that she could feel his breath on her neck, his presence a constant weight. By dawn, 12 accounts were empty, but the 13th wouldn't open. Angela tried every password combination she could think of. Nothing worked. The system locked her out after the 5th attempt. Luca's hand slammed down on the desk. What's the problem? I don't know the password. Try harder. I am. Angela's voice rose. I don't know what else to use. Luca grabbed her chair, spun her around to face him. You're lying. I'm not. Your father wouldn't lock you out, not if he wanted you to have this. Maybe he didn't, Angela shot back. Maybe he didn't trust me either. Maybe he was just using me like everyone else. The words hung in the air, raw and jagged. Luca stared at her, his expression unreadable. Then he stepped back. Get some sleep. We'll try again tonight. Luca, sleep, Angela. His voice was ice. Before I change my mind about keeping you alive. He walked out, locking the door behind him. Angela sat alone in the office, surrounded by evidence of her father's crimes, and felt something inside her break. Back. She didn't sleep. Instead, she searched the room. Every drawer, every file, every scrap of paper, looking for something, anything, that would explain what her father had done, why he'd dragged her into this. In the bottom drawer of the filing cabinet, she found a locked box. Angela used a paperclip to pick the lock, something she'd learned in college as a stupid party trick. The box opened with a soft click. Inside was a phone, newer than the one she'd found in her room, fully charged. Angela powered it on, her heart racing. The home screen showed a single app, a voice memo. She pressed play. Her father's voice filled the room. Angela, if you're hearing this, I'm dead, and you're probably with Devereaux. He coughed, wet, painful. I'm sorry, baby. I'm so sorry. I never wanted this for you, but I didn't have a choice. They were going to kill your mother, kill you. I had to make a deal. Angela's breath caught. Joshua works for them, not Devereaux, the people Devereaux's been fighting. A cartel out of Medellin. They wanted access to Devereaux's routes, his contacts. I gave it to them. Stole the money as a down payment, but they wanted more. They wanted you. The world tilted. I couldn't let that happen. So I faked the accounts in your name, made it look like you were involved, and told Devereaux. I knew he'd come for you, knew he'd protect you, even if he didn't realize it, because as long as you're valuable to him, you're safe from them. Angela's hands shook so hard she almost dropped the phone. The last account, the one you can't access. That's your insurance. $2 million. The password is your mother's maiden name, lowercase, followed by the year we got married. Use it if you need to run. Use it if you need to disappear. But Angela, listen to me. Devereaux isn't the monster. Joshua is. The cartel is. And they're still out there, still looking for you. The recording ended. Angela sat frozen, her mind reeling. Her father hadn't betrayed her. He'd tried to save her. And Luca. Luca had been telling the truth. He wasn't the villain. He was the only thing standing between her and something far worse. The door opened. Luca stood in the doorway, his expression dark. What are you doing? Angela looked up at him, tears streaming down her face. You were right, she whispered, about everything. Bacon. She told him. Every word from the recording. About the cartel. About Joshua. About her father's desperate gamble to keep her alive. Luca listened without interrupting, his face carved from granite. When she finished, he was silent for a long moment. Then he crossed to the filing cabinet, pulled out a folder, and opened it. I know about the cartel, he said quietly. I've been tracking them for 2 years. They've been trying to take over my territory piece by piece. I thought your father was working alone. I didn't realize he was a pawn. So what now? Luca looked at her, and for the first time she saw something other than coldness in his eyes. Respect. Now we've finished this. We access that last account. We use the money to draw them out. And we end this war before it ends us. Angela stood, her legs shaking. They'll come for me. I know. They'll try to kill me. They'll try. Luca's jaw tightened. But they'll have to go through me first. Angela stared at him, her pulse pounding. Why? Why protect me? You got your money back. You don't owe me anything. Luca stepped closer, his eyes locked on hers. Because your father was right. You are valuable. Not as collateral, as a weapon. He paused. And because I don't leave debts unpaid. Your father saved your life by sending you to me. So now I'm going to make sure he didn't die for nothing. The words hit Angela like a physical blow. I don't know how to be a weapon. You'll learn. Luca turned toward the door. Get dressed. We're leaving in an hour. Where are we going? He glanced back, a grim smile on his face. Monaco. There's a meeting. The cartel's leadership will be there, and so will we. The flight to Monaco was 2 hours. Angela spent most of it staring out the window, trying to process everything that had happened in the last 72 hours. Her entire world had been flipped upside down. Her father wasn't a simple thief. Joshua wasn't a loving fiancé. And Luca was the only honest person in this entire nightmare. She glanced at him. He was on the phone, speaking rapid Italian, his tone clipped and dangerous. When he hung up, he looked at her. The cartel knows we're coming. Angela's stomach dropped. How? Someone tipped them off. Someone in my organization. His expression was murder. I'll deal with them later. Right now, we need to focus on staying alive. What's the plan? Luca leaned back, his eyes calculating. The meeting is at a casino. Neutral ground. Both sides will be armed, but no one will make a move inside, too public. But the moment we step outside, it's open season. So we don't step outside. We have to. The account you can't access, it's linked to a safety deposit box at a bank in Monaco. We need what's inside. Angela frowned. My father didn't mention a safety deposit box. He wouldn't. It's insurance. Leverage against the cartel. Luca's gaze was intense. Documents. Proof of their operations. Names, dates, routes. Everything I need to destroy them. And if they know we're coming for it, then they'll try to stop us. Luca reached under his jacket, pulled out a gun, and set it on the table between them. Which is why you're going to learn how to use this. Angela stared at the weapon, her heart pounding. I've never fired a gun. You will today. They landed in Monaco just after noon. The city was a gleaming jewel on the Mediterranean coast. Luxury cars, designer boutiques, and more money per square foot than anywhere else on Earth. Angela had been here once before, on vacation with Joshua. The memory made her sick. Luca led her to a hotel, sleek, modern, expensive. They checked in under fake names. The suite had a view of the harbor, yachts bobbing in the water like toys. Rest, Luca said. The meeting's at 8. We leave at 7. Angela nodded, but she didn't rest. She paced the room, her mind racing. Tonight she'd be in the same room as the people who wanted her dead, the people her father had died protecting her from. At 6, there was a knock on the door. Luca opened it, and a woman stepped inside. Tall, blonde, carrying a garment bag. This is Elise, Luca said. She'll get you ready. Ready for what? Elise smiled, sharp, professional. You can't walk into a casino dressed like that, darling. You'll need to look the part. Angela glanced down at her jeans and sweater. What part? My date, Luca said. We're selling the illusion that this is a social call, not a negotiation. Elise unzipped the garment bag, revealing a dress, midnight blue silk, backless, stunning. Put this on, she said. Angela changed in the bathroom, her hands shaking. The dress fit perfectly, hugging every curve. She barely recognized herself in the mirror. When she stepped out, Luca's expression shifted, just for a second. Something flickered in his eyes before the mask slammed back into place. "You'll do," he said. Elise did her makeup, subtle, elegant, and pinned her hair up in a twist. By the time she was done, Angela looked like someone else entirely. Someone dangerous. Luca handed her a small clutch. "Guns inside, safety's on. If things go wrong, aim for center mass and pull the trigger." Angela took the clutch, her pulse hammering. "What if I can't?" Luca stepped closer, his voice low. "Then you die, and I can't let that happen." The casino was chaos wrapped in velvet. Lights, music, the clatter of chips, and the murmur of voices in a dozen languages. Angela's heels clicked against the marble floor as Luca guided her through the crowd, his hand on the small of her back. They moved through the main floor toward a private room in the back. 2 guards stood outside, both armed. They nodded at Luca and opened the doors. Inside, a long table dominated the space. 6 men sat around it, all of them radiating the kind of power that came from violence and money. At the head of the table sat a man Angela recognized from the photos in Luca's files. Carlos Ruiz, the cartel's second in command. He smiled when he saw them. "Devereaux, so good of you to join us." Luca didn't smile back. "Ruiz." Carlos's gaze slid to Angela, his eyes traveling over her in a way that made her skin crawl. "And who is this?" "A friend," Luca said. "She's Vincent Varelli's daughter." Carlos's smile widened. "I'd recognize those eyes anywhere. Your father was a talented man, Miss Varelli. Shame what happened to him." Angela's hands clenched. "You killed him." "Did I?" Carlos's tone was amused. "I don't recall." Luca's hand tightened on Angela's back, a warning. "We're here to talk business," Luca said, "not history." Carlos leaned back in his chair. "Of course. Business. You have something I want. I have something you want. Let's make a deal." "What do you want?" "Your roots through Eastern Europe, your contacts in Marseille, and the girl." The room went silent. Luca's voice was ice. "She's not for sale." "Everything's for sale, Devereaux. You just haven't named your price yet." Luca stepped forward, his body a coiled spring. "Touch her, and I'll burn your entire operation to the ground." Carlos laughed. Cold, sharp. "You're outnumbered, outgunned, and very, very far from home." He gestured to the guards. "What makes you think you're walking out of here alive?" Luca smiled, slow, dangerous. "Because I know something you don't." Carlos's expression flickered. "And what's that?" "Your partner, the one who tipped you off that we were coming." Luca pulled out his phone, tapped the screen, and turned it around. On the screen was a video. A man tied to a chair, beaten bloody. Angela recognized him, one of the men from the conference room in Florence. "He talked," Luca said. "Told me everything. About your supply lines, your offshore accounts, the names of every politician you've bought. And I've already sent that information to the authorities in 6 countries. Carlos's face went white. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" Luca pocketed the phone. "By tomorrow morning, your entire network will be under investigation. Your assets frozen. Your people arrested. Unless, of course, you agree to my terms." "Which are?" "You leave. Now. Withdraw from Italy, from France, from every territory you've touched, and you never come near Angela Varelli again." Carlos stood slowly, his eyes burning with rage. "And if I refuse?" "Then you go to war with someone who has nothing left to lose." For a long, agonizing moment, no one moved. Then Carlos laughed. "You've got balls, Devereaux. I'll give you that." He gestured to his men. "But this isn't over." "Yes," Luca said quietly. "It is." Carlos walked toward the door, then paused beside Angela. "Your father made a mistake, choosing Devereaux over us. Don't make the same one." Angela met his gaze, her voice steady. "My father made the right choice. And so did I." Carlos's expression darkened. Then he walked out, his men following. The door slammed shut. Angela's legs gave out. Luca caught her before she hit the floor. "Breathe," he said. She did, gasping, her whole body shaking. "Is it over?" For now? Luca helped her to a chair. But we need to move. Fast. We'll shut. They left the casino through a side exit, Luca's hand on her arm, guiding her through narrow streets toward the bank. The city was quieter here, the noise of the casino fading behind them. Angela's mind was still spinning. You were bluffing, she said. About the information. You don't have any of that. Luca glanced at her, a ghost of a smile on his lips. I wasn't bluffing. I've been gathering intel on the cartel for 2 years. I just didn't have enough to move until tonight. So you used me as bait. I used us both. Luca stopped in front of a building, old, stately, a bank from another era. But it worked. Inside, a clerk was waiting. Luca handed over documents. The clerk led them to a vault, opened a safety deposit box, and left them alone. Luca pulled out the box, set it on the table. This is it. Whatever your father left, it's in here. Angela's hand shook as she opened it. Inside was a flash drive and a letter. She unfolded the letter, her father's handwriting blurring through her tears. Angela, if you're reading this, you've found your way. You've survived. I'm so proud of you. The drive contains everything. Proof of the cartel's operations, names, accounts, everything Devereaux needs to finish this. Give it to him. Trust him. He's the only one who can keep you safe now. I love you, baby. Always. Dad. Angela handed the drive to Luca, her throat too tight to speak. He took it, his expression unreadable. Your father was a good man, he said quietly. He just made bad choices. Like all of us, Angela whispered. Luca looked at her, and for the first time she saw something soft in his eyes. Not all of us. Then the lights went out. Gunfire erupted from somewhere above, shouting, the sound of breaking glass. Luca grabbed Angela, shoving her behind him. They found us. How? Doesn't matter. He pulled out his gun. Stay close. They ran. Through the vault, up the stairs, into the main lobby. Bodies lay on the floor, security guards, clerks. Blood everywhere. Carlos's men were inside. Luca fired twice, dropping the first 2. Angela pulled the gun from her clutch, her hand shaking so hard she could barely aim. Shoot! Luca yelled. She did. The recoil knocked her back, but the bullet found its mark. A man went down, screaming. They burst through the front doors into the street. A car screeched to a halt in front of them, Maria at the wheel. Get in, she shouted. They dove into the back seat. Maria floored it, the car fishtailing as bullets shattered the rear window. Angela ducked, her ears ringing, her heart threatening to explode. Luca was on his phone, barking orders in Italian. They drove for what felt like hours, finally stopping at a private airfield outside the city. A plane was waiting, engines already running. They boarded without a word. As the plane lifted off, Angela collapsed into a seat, her whole body shaking. Luca sat across from her, blood on his shirt, his expression grim. Are we safe? She asked. For now. And later? Luca didn't answer, because they both knew the truth. This wasn't over. It was just beginning. Well, good. They flew through the night, landing somewhere Angela didn't recognize. A small airstrip, surrounded by mountains. Luca led her to a car, and they drove in silence through winding roads until they reached a house. Remote, fortified, hidden. Safe house, Luca said. We'll stay here until things calm down. Inside, the house was sparse but functional. Luca locked the doors, checked the windows, set alarms. Angela sank onto a couch, exhaustion crashing over her. What happens now? Luca sat across from her, the flash drive in his hand. I use this. Destroy the cartel. End this war. And me? Luca looked at her, his expression unreadable. That depends. On what? On what you want. Angela stared at him, her mind reeling. What did she want? A week ago, the answer would have been simple. She wanted her old life back, her mother, her home, her future. But that life was gone. Burned to ash the moment Luca Devereaux walked into that bridal suite. And the terrifying thing was, she wasn't sure she wanted it back anymore. I want the truth, she said finally. About everything. No more lies. No more games. Luca nodded slowly. All right. He stood, crossed to a cabinet, and pulled out a bottle of whiskey, poured 2 glasses, handed one to Angela. Ask, he said. Angela took a sip, the burn steadying her. Who are you, really? Luca smiled, bitter, tired. I'm the son of a fisherman from Calabria. Grew up poor, watched my father die because he couldn't afford medicine. Watched my mother work herself to death trying to feed us. I was 14 when I joined my first crew, 18 when I killed my first man, 25 when I took over the organization. He took a drink. I'm not a good man, Angela. I've done terrible things, but I've never pretended to be anything other than what I am. And what's that? A survivor. Angela set down her glass. So am I. Luca's eyes met hers, and something passed between them. An understanding, maybe. Or a challenge. Yes, he said quietly. You are. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Angela stood, crossed the space between them, and did something she'd sworn she'd never do. She kissed him. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't soft. It was raw and desperate and full of all the fear and rage and confusion she'd been carrying for weeks. Luca froze for half a second. Then his hands were in her hair, pulling her closer, kissing her back with the same intensity. When they finally broke apart, both of them were breathing hard. This is insane, Angela whispered. I know. We shouldn't. I know. But neither of them moved away. Luca's hand cupped her face, his thumb brushing her cheek. If you stay with me, there's no going back. You understand that? Angela nodded. I understand. This life, it's dangerous, violent. You could die. I almost died tonight. And it will happen again, and again, until one day it's not almost. Angela met his gaze, her voice steady. Then teach me how to survive. Luca stared at her for a long moment. Then he kissed her again. And this time, neither of them stopped. Angela woke to sunlight streaming through the window. She was in a bed, Luca's bed, wrapped in sheets that smelled like him. Her body ached in ways that had nothing to do with running or fighting. Luca was gone. She sat up, heart pounding, and grabbed his shirt from the floor, pulled it on. Found him in the kitchen, coffee in hand, staring at a laptop. What are you doing? She asked. He looked up, his expression dark. Watching the world burn. Angela crossed to the laptop. On the screen was a news article. International drug cartel dismantled in coordinated raids. She scanned the text. Arrests in Colombia, Mexico, Spain, assets frozen, leaders in custody. You did this? The flash drive. Luca closed the laptop. I sent it to every agency I could think of. Interpol, DEA, Europol. By this morning, the cartel was finished. Angela stared at him. So it's over. For them. But not for us. Luca stood, crossing to her. No. Not for us. He pulled her close, his hands sliding around her waist. There's something I need to tell you, he said quietly. Angela's stomach tightened. What? The last account. The one you couldn't access. Luca's gaze was intense. I know the password. Angela went still. How? Because I set it up. With your father. Luca's jaw tightened. The $2 million? It's not insurance for you. It's payment for me, for keeping you alive. Angela's breath caught. What? Your father made a deal with me 3 years ago. He'd give me $10 million, and I'd protect you from the cartel, forever. The last $2 million was my fee. I just had to make sure you survived long enough to pay it. The words hit Angela like a freight train. You knew. This whole time, you knew my father was trying to protect me. Yes. And you still, her voice broke. You still terrorized me, kidnapped me, made me think I was going to die. I had to. Luca's expression was anguished. If the cartel thought you were just a pawn, they'd have killed you immediately. But if they thought you were valuable to me, if they thought I wanted something from you, they'd hesitate. They'd try to use you as leverage, and that bought me time. Time to gather evidence, time to destroy them. Angela shoved him away, tears streaming down her face. You used me. I saved you. By lying to me. By keeping you alive. Luca's voice rose. Do you think I wanted this? Do you think I wanted to fall for the daughter of a dead thief? To care about someone who could destroy everything I've built? But I did. And I'm sorry. But I do it again because you're alive, and that's all that matters. Angela stared at him, her chest heaving. You don't get to decide that. I already did. She slapped him. The crack echoed through the room. Luca didn't flinch, just stood there, his cheek reddening, his eyes locked on hers. I deserve that, he said quietly. You deserve worse. I know. Angela turned away, her hands shaking. I can't do this. I can't be with someone who... I love you. The words stopped her cold. She turned back, her breath catching. What? Luca stepped closer, his voice raw. I love you, Angela. I didn't want to. I tried not to. But I do. And I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm not asking you to stay. I'm just telling you the truth, because you deserve that much. Angela's tears blurred her vision. You don't love me. You love the idea of me, the weapon, the leverage. No. Luca's hand cupped her face. I love the woman who stood in front of a cartel boss and didn't flinch. I love the woman who learned to shoot in a single day and saved my life. I love the woman who could have run a dozen times but chose to stay. That's who I love. Angela closed her eyes, her whole body shaking. I hate you. I know. I should leave. I know. But I can't. Luca's forehead rested against hers. I know. They stood there, wrapped in each other, the weight of everything between them crushing and inescapable. Finally, Angela pulled back. If I stay, if I do this, things change. No more lies. No more secrets. We're partners. Equals. Or I walk. Luca nodded. Partners. And the 2 million? Yours? I don't want it. Angela searched his face, looking for the lie. But there wasn't one. Just a man. Broken, dangerous, and utterly hers. Okay, she whispered. Luca's eyes blazed. Okay? Okay. He kissed her, hard, desperate, like she was the only thing keeping him alive. And maybe she was. 3 days later, they left the safe house. The world had moved on. The cartel was dismantled. Joshua was in prison. Angela's mother was safe. But Angela Varelli was gone. In her place was someone new, someone harder, someone who'd stared into the abyss and learned to stare back. They drove to the villa, Luca's hand on her knee, the sun setting over the Tuscan hills. What now? Angela asked. Luca glanced at her, a slow smile spreading across his face. Now? We build an empire. Angela smiled back. Together. Together. And as the villa came into view, Angela realized something that should have terrified her, but didn't. She'd crossed the point of no return, and she wasn't looking back. The empire didn't build itself. Angela learned that truth within the first week back at the villa. Luca's world wasn't just dangerous, it was relentless. Shipments needed routing, contacts needed managing, rivals needed handling, and every single day brought a new crisis that required split-second decisions with life or death consequences. She threw herself into it. Morning started at 5 with Luca in the gym, hand-to-hand combat, weapons training, situational drills. He was brutal, never pulling punches, pushing her until her muscles screamed and her lungs burned. But she didn't quit. Couldn't. Because every bruise was a lesson, every fall a chance to get back up stronger. Afternoons were spent in his war room learning the business, how to read shipping manifests, how to identify undercover cops, how to spot a double cross before it happened. Luca taught her everything, not because he wanted to, but because he needed to. Because partners meant equals, and equals meant survival. Nights were theirs. No business, no war. Just two people trying to find something real in the wreckage of their lives. But peace was a luxury neither of them could afford for long. 3 weeks after Monaco, the first threat arrived. Angela was in the garden when she heard the gunshot. Not close, somewhere on the perimeter, but close enough that her hand went instinctively to the gun tucked into her waistband. Luca had insisted she carry one everywhere now. She'd resisted at first. Not anymore. She ran toward the villa, her heart hammering. Guards were already moving, weapons drawn, shouting into radios. Luca appeared from the side entrance, his face dark. "Inside," he barked. "What's happening? Inside, now!" He grabbed her arm, pulling her through the doors. Maria was there, her expression grim. "Lock it down," Luca ordered. Maria nodded, disappearing down the hall. Steel shutters began dropping over the windows with mechanical precision. The villa transformed from a home into a fortress in seconds. Angela's pulse pounded in her ears. "Luca, what's going on?" He pulled out his phone, tapped the security feeds. On the screen, she saw them, 4 men in tactical gear, moving through the olive groves toward the house. Professional, armed, deadly. "Cartel?" she asked. "No." Luca's jaw tightened. "Worse." "What's worse than the cartel?" "My own people." Angela's blood went cold. Luca zoomed in on one of the men's faces. She recognized him, Marco, one of Luca's captains. Someone she'd met half a dozen times. Someone Luca trusted. "He's staging a coup," Luca said quietly. "He thinks I've gone soft, that you've made me weak." "Have I?" Luca looked at her, his eyes blazing. "No, but he's about to find out just how wrong he is." He grabbed a rifle from the wall cabinet, checked the magazine, and tossed a second one to Angela. "You remember how to use this?" Her hands closed around the weapon, muscle memory kicking in. "Yes." "Good, because we're about to have company." The attack came 5 minutes later. Explosions rocked the east wall. Not enough to breach it, but enough to rattle the windows and send dust raining from the ceiling. Angela ducked instinctively, her grip tightening on the rifle. Luca was on the radio, barking orders to the guards outside. His voice was calm, controlled, but Angela could see the tension in his shoulders. "How many?" she asked. "Marco brought 12. We have 8 inside, 4 outside." Luca's eyes met hers. "We're outnumbered. So what's the plan? Survive long enough for reinforcements to arrive." "How long?" 20 minutes. Angela's stomach dropped. 20 minutes might as well have been 20 hours. Gunfire erupted from the north side, rapid, chaotic. The sounds of men shouting, screaming. Luca moved to the window, peering through a slit in the shutter. Angela followed, her heart in her throat. Outside, Marco's men were advancing, using the garden walls for cover. Luca's guards were returning fire, but they were falling back, outnumbered and outgunned. "We can't hold them," Angela said. "We don't have to." Luca turned to her. "We just have to make it too expensive for them to try." He crossed to a panel on the wall, flipped it open, and entered a code. Somewhere below, machinery groaned to life. "What's that?" "Insurance." The villa had a basement. Angela had never been down there, but she'd heard rumors. Storage, weapons, and something else Luca had never explained. Now she was about to find out. "Come on," he said. They moved through the villa, down a narrow staircase hidden behind a bookshelf. The air grew cooler, the walls closing in. At the bottom, Luca unlocked a heavy steel door and pushed it open. Inside was an armory, rows of weapons, rifles, shotguns, handguns, even grenades, enough firepower to start a small war, or end one. Luca grabbed a vest, tossed one to Angela. "Put it on." She did, the weight settling over her chest like a second skin. Luca loaded magazines, checked weapons, moved with the efficiency of someone who'd done this 1,000 times before. "How often does this happen?" Angela asked. "Often enough." He handed her extra ammunition, a knife, and a small device that looked like a phone. "Panic button," he explained. "If something happens to me, press it. Reinforcements will come for you." Angela's throat tightened. "Nothing's going to happen to you." Luca's smile was grim. Optimism. "I like it." Above them, the gunfire intensified, closer now. "They're inside," Luca said. He moved to a second door at the back of the armory, unlocked it, and pulled it open. Beyond was a tunnel, narrow, dark, stretching into nothing. "Emergency exit," he said. "Leads to the woods 1/2 mile north. If things go bad, you run. Don't look back. Don't wait for me. Just run." "I'm not leaving you." "Angela?" "I said I'm not leaving." Her voice was steel. "We're partners, remember? That means we fight together, or we die together." Luca stared at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Together." They moved back upstairs, weapons ready, every nerve on edge. Hot. Marco's men had breached the main floor. Angela heard them before she saw them. Boots on marble, voices low and tense. Luca gestured for her to take position behind a pillar. She did, her rifle trained on the doorway, her finger resting on the trigger. The first man came through fast, weapon up, scanning the room. Angela fired. The shot hit him center mass, dropping him before he could react. The second man dove for cover, returning fire. Bullets chewed into the pillar, spraying Angela with plaster dust. Luca moved from the opposite side, firing in controlled bursts. 2 more men went down, but there were more coming. Angela's heart hammered as she reloaded, her hands shaking but steady enough. She'd trained for this, drilled for this, but training was different from reality. Reality was louder, messier, more terrifying than anything she'd imagined. A man rounded the corner too fast. Angela fired on instinct, the shot going wide. He returned fire, and she felt the impact. A white-hot line across her shoulder. She gasped, stumbled, but didn't fall. Luca was there in an instant, putting 2 rounds in the man's chest. "You hit?" he demanded. "Just grazed." "Can you move?" "Yes." "Then move." They ran, cutting through the villa toward the west wing. Behind them, Marco's voice echoed, cold and furious. "Devereaux, there's nowhere to go. Give up now, and I'll make it quick." Luca didn't respond, just kept moving, Angela right behind him. They reached a study, small, defensible, with only one entrance. Luca slammed the door, locked it, and shoved a desk against it for good measure. Angela leaned against the wall, gasping for breath. Blood soaked her shoulder, warm and sticky. Luca crossed to her, ripped a strip from his shirt, and wrapped it around the wound. His hands were steady, but his eyes were wild. "You shouldn't be here," he said. "Where else would I be?" "Safe." Angela laughed, sharp, bitter. "Safe doesn't exist anymore. Not for me." Luca's jaw tightened. He opened his mouth to argue, but the sound of boots in the hallway stopped him. "Barricade won't hold long," he muttered. "How long until reinforcements?" Luca checked his watch. 10 minutes. "We just need to last 10 minutes. Against 8 men? In a room with 1 exit?" Angela met his gaze. "Then we'd better make every shot count, Tom." They lasted 7. The barricade held for the first 3 minutes, giving them time to fortify their position. But Marco's men weren't amateurs. They used a battering ram, something heavy, probably torn from the villa's own furniture, and the door splintered on the 4th hit. Luca fired through the gap, forcing them back. But they regrouped fast, tossing in a flashbang. The world turned white. Angela's ears rang, her vision swimming. She felt hands on her, rough, dragging her up. She lashed out blindly, her fists connecting with something solid. A grunt. The hands released. Her vision cleared just in time to see Luca locked in hand-to-hand combat with 2 men. He moved like a predator, brutal, efficient, ruthless. One man went down with a crushed windpipe. The other caught an elbow to the temple and dropped like a stone. But more were coming. Angela raised her rifle, fired, dropped one. Reloaded, fired again. Missed. The man closed the distance, knocking the rifle from her hands. She went for the knife at her belt, slashed upward, felt it bite into flesh. The man screamed, stumbled back. Angela didn't hesitate. She drove the knife into his chest, twisted, pulled it free. Blood sprayed hot across her face. She'd killed before. In Monaco. But this was different. This was close. Personal. The man's eyes went wide with shock, then empty. Angela stepped back, her hands shaking. No time to process. Another man was on her, fists flying. She blocked one punch, took another to the ribs. Pain exploded through her side. She gasped, dropped to one knee. Luca was there, pulling the man off, slamming him into the wall so hard the plaster cracked. "Angela, get up!" She did, ignoring the pain screaming through her body. The study was chaos. Bodies, blood, smoke from the flashbang. 4 men down, 4 still standing, including Marco. He stepped into the room slowly, a gun in each hand, his expression cold. "It's over, Luca." Luca raised his rifle. "Not yet." Marco smiled. "You really think you can win this? I've got men surrounding this villa. Even if you kill me, you're dead, both of you." "Maybe," Luca said. "But so are you." Marco's smile faded. "You always were too stubborn for your own good." "Funny. I was about to say the same thing." They stared at each other, the air crackling with tension. Then Angela heard it. Helicopters. Distant, but getting closer. Marco heard it too. His expression shifted, just for a second. uncertainty. Luca's smile was savage. That's not my men, Marco. That's the authorities. I made a call before you breached the gate. Told them about the coup. About your little operation on the side, the one you thought I didn't know about. The human trafficking, the arms deals, all of it. Marco's face went white. You're lying. Am I? Luca tilted his head. Guess we'll find out. The helicopters were louder now. Searchlights cut through the windows. Marco's men shifted, nervous. Boss? One of them asked. Marco's jaw clenched. Then he raised his gun, aiming at Luca. If I'm going down, I'm taking you with me. He fired. Angela moved without thinking. She threw herself in front of Luca, her body colliding with his, knocking them both to the ground. The bullet that should have hit Luca's chest hit the wall instead. Luca rolled, came up firing. His shot hit Marco in the shoulder, spinning him around. The second shot hit his leg, dropping him. Marco's men scattered, some running for the exits, others dropping their weapons and raising their hands as armed police poured into the villa. It was over in seconds. Angela lay on the floor, her ears ringing, her body screaming. Luca was beside her, his hands on her face. Angela, look at me. She did. His face was smeared with blood. Hers, his, she didn't know. I'm okay, she managed. You jumped in front of a bullet. You would have done the same. Luca's laugh was half sob. You're insane. I learned from the best. He pulled her into his arms, holding her so tight she could barely breathe. Around them, police were shouting, securing the scene, cuffing Marco and his men. But Angela didn't care about any of that. She was alive. They were alive. And that was all that mattered. What? The aftermath was a blur. Paramedics arrived, patching up wounds, loading bodies onto stretchers. Luca refused treatment until Angela was taken care of first. She had 3 cracked ribs, the graze on her shoulder, and more bruises than she could count. The lead investigator, a sharp-eyed woman named Captain Rossi, interviewed them both separately. Angela stuck to the story Luca had coached her on during the helicopter ride out. Marco had gone rogue, tried to take over the organization, attacked the villa. They defended themselves. It wasn't entirely a lie. Rossi didn't look convinced, but she didn't have enough evidence to hold them. Luca had made sure of that years ago. Layers of legal protection, politicians in his pocket, lawyers on retainer. He existed in a gray area where the law could see him but never quite touch him. By dawn, they were released. Luca's reinforcements, the real ones, had arrived during the raid. 20 men, heavily armed, loyal to the core. They secured the villa, swept it for explosives, and began the cleanup. Angela stood in the garden watching the sun rise over the hills. Her body ached, but her mind was clear. Luca found her there. You should be resting, he said. So should you. He stood beside her, close enough that their shoulders touched. Marco's talking, Luca said quietly. Trying to cut a deal. He's giving up names, routes, contacts. Will it work? For him, maybe. For the people he's giving up? Luca's smile was cold. No. Angela looked at him. What are you going to do? Clean house. Anyone who sided with Marco, anyone who even thought about it, they're gone. You mean dead? Luca didn't deny it. Angela should have been horrified. A month ago, she would have been. But now, standing in the ruins of a villa that had been attacked by men she'd trusted, men who'd tried to kill her, now she understood. What about us? She asked. Luca turned to her, his expression softening. What do you mean? This. Angela gestured to the villa, the guards, the wreckage. This life. Is this what you want? Forever? Luca was quiet for a long moment. I don't know what I want, he admitted. I've spent so long surviving, I forgot how to live. Then maybe it's time to learn. He looked at her, really looked at her, and Angela saw something in his eyes she'd never seen before. Hope. You make it sound easy, he said. It's not. But nothing worth having ever is. Luca's hand found hers, his fingers lacing through hers. I love you, he said. I know I've said it before, but I need you to know. I mean it. You're not leverage. You're not a weapon. You're the only good thing I've ever had. And if you want out, if you want to walk away from all of this, I'll let you go. Angela's throat tightened. What if I don't want to go? Then I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret staying. Angela turned to face him fully, her hand cupping his jaw. I don't regret it. Not for a second. Luca's eyes searched hers, looking for doubt, finding none. He kissed her, soft, tender, nothing like the desperate clashes of before. This was different. This was a promise. When they pulled apart, Angela rested her forehead against his. So what now? She asked. Luca smiled. Now? We rebuild. Stronger, smarter, together. Together, Angela echoed. But rebuilding wasn't as simple as it sounded. Over the next 2 weeks, the full extent of Marco's betrayal became clear. He'd been planning the coup for months, siphoning funds, recruiting loyalists, building a network under Luca's nose. And he hadn't been working alone. There was someone else. Someone higher up the food chain. Someone who'd been pulling Marco's strings. Luca's contacts in law enforcement, the ones he hadn't bought, confirmed it. Marco was just a pawn. The real threat was still out there. Who? Angela asked one night, staring at the files spread across Luca's desk. I don't know yet, but I will. Luca's voice was ice. And when I find them, they'll wish they'd never been born. Angela believed him. But finding the puppet master wasn't going to be easy. Whoever they were careful. Smart. And they'd been watching Luca for years, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. That moment had almost come. If not for Angela throwing herself in front of a bullet, it would have. The thought sent a chill down her spine. She stood, crossing to the window. Outside, guards patrolled the grounds, their presence a constant reminder of the danger they were in. We can't keep living like this, she said. Luca looked up. Like what? Like prisoners, looking over our shoulders every second, waiting for the next attack. This is the life, Angela. This is what I signed up for. But it's not what I signed up for. She turned to face him. I chose you. I chose this. But I didn't choose to spend the rest of my life waiting to die. Luca stood, crossing to her. What are you saying? I'm saying we end this. We find whoever's pulling the strings, and we cut them off, permanently. Luca's eyes gleamed. You want to go on offense. I want to survive, and the only way to do that is to eliminate the threat before it eliminates us. Luca studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. All right. But if we're doing this, we do it my way. No half measures, no mercy. Angela's smile was sharp. I wouldn't have it any other way. The plan came together over the next 48 hours. Luca's intelligence network, vast, expensive, and terrifyingly effective, started pulling threads. Marco had made calls from prison, despite being in isolation. Someone on the outside was coordinating with him. Someone with access to encrypted phones and offshore accounts. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source, Joshua. He was still in federal custody in the States, awaiting trial. But when Luca's lawyers approached him with an offer, reduced sentence in exchange for information, he talked. Turned out Joshua knew more than anyone had realized. He'd been working with the cartel, yes, but he'd also been feeding information to someone else. Someone who'd promised him protection if things went south. A name. Viktor Kozlov. Angela's blood ran cold when she heard it. Who is he? She asked. Luca's expression was grim. Russian arms dealer, one of the biggest in Europe. I've been trying to shut him down for years, but he's untouchable. Too many connections, too much money. And he wants you dead. He wants my territory, my roots, my contacts. With me gone, he can move in and take over the entire Mediterranean. Angela's mind raced. So Marco was working for him. Marco was an idiot who thought he could play both sides. Kozlov used him. And when Marco failed, Kozlov cut him loose. Which means Kozlov's going to try again. Not try. Luca's voice was hard. He's going to succeed, unless we stop him first. Angela leaned against the desk, her mind spinning. How do we stop someone who's untouchable? Luca smiled. Cold, dangerous. We make him touchable. The trap was set in 3 days. Luca leaked information through his network, carefully crafted lies designed to lure Kozlov out of hiding. Word spread that Luca had been weakened by Marco's coup, that his organization was fractured, vulnerable, that now was the time to strike. Kozlov took the bait. Intelligence confirmed he was flying into Italy personally, something he rarely did. He wanted to oversee the final blow himself. Arrogant bastard, Luca muttered, staring at the surveillance photos. Angela studied the images. Kozlov was older than she expected. Mid-60s, gray hair, expensive suit. He looked like a businessman, not a killer. But she knew better. "Where's the meet?" she asked. "Rome. A warehouse near the docks. Neutral ground." Luca's smile was savage. "Or so he thinks." "What's the play?" "We go in. Negotiate. Make him think we're desperate. And when his guard's down..." Luca made a sharp gesture across his throat. Angela's pulse quickened. "That's insane. He'll have an army with him. So will we. He'll be expecting a double cross, which is why we won't do it the way he expects." Luca turned to her, his eyes intense. "You're going to kill him." Angela's breath caught. "What? He doesn't know you, doesn't see you as a threat. He'll be focused on me, on my men. He won't even look at you until it's too late." "You want me to assassinate him? I want you to end this war before it destroys us both." Angela stared at him, her heart pounding. This was it. The moment where she stopped being a victim, stopped being collateral, and became exactly what Luca had always said she was. A weapon. "Okay," she said quietly. Luca crossed to her, his hands framing her face. "You don't have to do this." "Yes, I do." Angela's voice was steady. "Because if I don't, we're dead. Both of us." Luca kissed her, hard, desperate. "I love you," he whispered against her lips. "I love you too." Angela pulled back, her eyes fierce. "Now teach me how to kill a king." The warehouse was massive. Rusted metal, broken windows, the smell of salt and decay thick in the air. Luca's men secured the perimeter, hidden but ready. Inside, a single table had been set up in the center of the space, 2 chairs facing each other. Angela stood in the shadows, her heart hammering. She wore a simple black dress, no weapons visible, but strapped to her thigh, hidden beneath the fabric, was a knife. Small, sharp, deadly. Luca had drilled her for hours. One chance, one strike. Center mass, upward angle, twist and pull. She could do this. She had to. Kozlov arrived exactly on time. He came with 12 men, all of them armed, all of them professionals. They swept the warehouse, checked for traps, scanned for threats. But they didn't find Angela, pressed flat against the wall in the darkest corner, barely breathing. Kozlov himself was calm, unhurried. He sat at the table, poured himself a glass of vodka from a flask, and waited. Luca entered from the opposite side, alone, the picture of confidence. "Kozlov," he said, sitting across from him. "Devereaux." Kozlov's English was heavily accented but clear. "You look terrible." "You should see the other guy." Kozlov smiled. "I heard about Marco. Shame. He had potential." "He was an idiot." "True, but he was my idiot." Kozlov took a sip of vodka. "You've been busy, I hear, cleaning house, making enemies." "I prefer to think of it as trimming dead weight." "And yet, here you are, asking for a meeting, asking for peace." Kozlov leaned back. "Why?" "Because I'm tired," Luca said simply. "Tired of fighting, tired of watching my people die. I want out." Kozlov's eyebrows rose. "Out? I'll give you the Mediterranean, the routes, the contacts, everything. In exchange, you leave me alone. Let me retire in peace." Kozlov laughed, deep, genuine. "You? Retire? Forgive me if I don't believe you. Believe what you want. I'm offering you everything you've wanted for years, on a silver platter." Kozlov's smile faded. He studied Luca, searching for the lie. "What's the catch?" "No catch. Just terms. You get the territory. I get my life. And the girl." Kozlov's gaze sharpened. "What girl?" "Angela Varelli. Vincent's daughter. She's mine. Non-negotiable." Kozlov's eyes narrowed. "The girl you kidnapped? The one who's been helping you?" "The one I'm going to marry." Kozlov laughed again, but this time there was an edge to it. "You've gone soft, Devereaux. Love has made you weak." "Maybe. But I'm still smart enough to know when I'm beaten." Kozlov considered, Then he nodded. All right, I accept your terms. The territory is mine. You retire, and you keep the girl. He extended his hand. Deal? Luca stood, shook his hand. Deal. That's when Angela moved. She stepped out of the shadows, crossing the space in 3 silent strides. Kozlov's men reacted too late, their hands going for weapons, but not fast enough. Angela's hand slipped beneath her dress, pulled the knife, and drove it into Kozlov's back, upward, between the ribs, straight into his heart. Kozlov gasped, his eyes going wide with shock. Angela twisted the blade and pulled it free, blood spraying hot across her hand. Kozlov collapsed, dead before he hit the ground. For 1 frozen second, no one moved. Then all hell broke loose. Kozlov's men opened fire. Luca dove for cover, pulling Angela with him. His own men burst through the doors, returning fire in a deafening roar. The warehouse became a war zone. Angela pressed herself against a pillar, her hands slick with blood, her ears ringing. Luca was beside her, firing over her head, his face a mask of cold fury. "Stay down!" he shouted. She did. The firefight lasted 2 minutes, brutal, chaotic, merciless. When it ended, Kozlov's men were dead or dying. Luca's men were battered but alive. And in the center of it all, Viktor Kozlov lay in a pool of his own blood, eyes staring at nothing. Luca stood, pulled Angela to her feet. "You okay?" Angela looked down at her hands, at the blood, at the knife still clutched in her fist. "I killed him," she whispered. "You saved us." Luca's hands framed her face. "You ended the war." Angela's legs gave out. Luca caught her, holding her as she shook, the adrenaline crashing out of her system all at once. "It's over," he murmured into her hair. "It's finally over." But even as he said it, Angela knew the truth. It would never be over. Not really, because this was their life now. Violence, blood, survival, and she'd just proven she could thrive in it. They left Rome that night. Luca's men cleaned up the warehouse, disposed of the bodies, erased every trace of what had happened. By morning, it would be as if Viktor Kozlov had simply vanished. The flight back to Tuscany was silent. Angela stared out the window, her mind numb. She'd killed a man. Not in self-defense, not in the heat of battle, but coldly, deliberately. And the worst part? She didn't regret it. Luca's hand found hers, his fingers lacing through hers. "Talk to me," he said quietly. "I don't know what to say." "Say what you're feeling." Angela looked at him, her eyes burning. "I feel like I'm becoming someone I don't recognize." "You're becoming who you need to be to survive." "Is that supposed to make me feel better?" "No." Luca's gaze was steady. "But it's the truth." Angela turned back to the window. "What happens now?" "Now?" Luca's voice was soft. "Now we live. On our own terms. No more running, no more hiding. We take what's ours, and we hold it. And if someone tries to take it from us?" Luca's smile was cold. "Then we show them what happens when they cross the Devereaux family." Angela's breath caught. "Family?" Luca pulled a small box from his pocket, opened it. Inside was a ring, simple, elegant, a single diamond set in platinum. "Marry me," he said. Angela stared at the ring, her heart pounding. "Luca, I know the timing's terrible. I know we're covered in blood and running from enemies and probably insane. But I don't care." His voice was raw. "I want you. Forever. As my partner. My equal. My wife." Angela's eyes filled with tears. "This is crazy." "I know. We're going to get killed. Probably. And you still want to marry me? More than I've ever wanted anything." Angela looked at him. This man who'd kidnapped her, terrorized her, and somehow become the only person she trusted in the entire world. And she smiled. "Yes." Luca's expression transformed. Relief, joy, love, all of it crashing over his face at once. He slid the ring onto her finger, then pulled her into a kiss that tasted like blood and hope and forever. When they pulled apart, Angela rested her forehead against his. "What did we just do?" she whispered. Luca laughed, soft, breathless. "We just declared war on the entire world." Good, Angela said. Let them come. And as the plane touched down in Tuscany, as the sun rose over the hills, Angela Varelli, soon to be Angela Devereaux, realized something that should have terrified her. She wasn't afraid anymore. She was ready. For anything. For everything. For the ring felt heavy on Angela's finger. She twisted it absently as she stood on the villa's terrace, watching the sun climb over the Tuscan hills. 3 days since Rome. 3 days since she'd driven a knife into Viktor Koslov's heart. 3 days since Luka had asked her to marry him, and she'd said yes. She should have felt different. Lighter, maybe. Or heavier, something. Instead, she just felt tired. Behind her, the villa buzzed with activity. Luka's men were everywhere, reinforcing security, sweeping for bugs, preparing for retaliation that might never come. Koslov's organization had fractured the moment word of his death spread. Some factions surrendered. Others went to ground. A few tried to strike back, but Luka crushed them before they could gain traction. The war was over. They'd won. So why did it feel like they'd lost something along the way? "You're up early." Angela turned. Luka stood in the doorway, bare-chested, wearing only the pants he'd slept in. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. He hadn't been sleeping well either. "Couldn't sleep," she said. He crossed to her, wrapping his arms around her from behind. His chin rested on her shoulder, his breath warm against her neck. "Nightmares?" "No, just thoughts." "About?" Angela hesitated, then decided honesty was the only currency they had left. "About whether we're ever going to be okay." Luka was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft. "Define okay." "Normal. Safe. Not looking over our shoulders every second." "That's not this life, Angela. You know that." "I know." Angela turned in his arms, meeting his gaze. "But what if I want it anyway?" Luka's jaw tightened. She could see the conflict in his eyes, the part of him that wanted to give her everything warring with the part that knew some things were impossible. "If you want out." "I don't want out." Angela's hands pressed against his chest. "I want you. I want us. I just want it without the constant threat of death. Then we make it happen." "How?" Luka's smile was grim. "We finish what we started. We consolidate power. We make it so expensive to come after us that no one dares try. And then? And then we live. On our own terms." Angela searched his face, looking for the lie. But there wasn't one. Just determination, fierce and unshakable. "Okay," she said quietly. Luka kissed her forehead. "Okay." The consolidation took 2 weeks. Luka moved methodically, absorbing Koslov's former territories, forging alliances with rivals who'd rather negotiate than fight, eliminating the few who wouldn't. Angela watched him work, marveling at the cold precision of it. This wasn't the man who'd held her while she cried after killing Koslov. This was the crime lord who'd built an empire from nothing. But at night, when they were alone, that mask came off. And the man underneath was breaking. Angela saw it in the way his hand shook when he thought she wasn't looking. The way he stared at nothing for long stretches, lost in thoughts he wouldn't share. The way he held her too tight, like she might disappear if he let go. "Talk to me," she said one night, lying in bed beside him. "Nothing to talk about." "Luka, I'm fine." "You're not." He turned to face her, and in the moonlight streaming through the window, she saw it. The cracks in the armor, the weight of every decision, every death, every compromise. "I don't know how to stop," he admitted. "I've been doing this for so long, I don't know who I am without it." Angela's hand found his, their fingers lacing together. "Then we figure it out, together." "What if there's nothing left to figure out? What if this is all I am?" "It's not." Angela's voice was firm. "You're more than this, I've seen it. You feed people, you protect them. You built schools in villages that had nothing. You're not just a monster, Luka. You're a man trying to survive in a world that doesn't give second chances." Luka's eyes glistened. "You see me better than I see myself. Then trust me when I say you're worth saving." He pulled her close, his face buried in her hair. "I love you," he whispered. "I know." Angela's arms wrapped around him. "And I'm not going anywhere." Bams. But the universe had other plans. The call came at 3 in the morning, 2 weeks after Rome. Angela was dragged from sleep by the sound of Luca's phone buzzing. He answered it immediately, his voice sharp. "What?" Angela sat up, watching his expression shift from alert to dark to something she couldn't name. "When?" A pause. "How many?" Another pause. "Lock it down. I'm on my way." He hung up, already moving, pulling on clothes with military efficiency. "What's wrong?" Angela asked. "Your mother." Angela's blood went cold. "What about her?" "She's in the hospital, critical condition. Someone attacked her in Charleston." The world tilted. "Who?" "I don't know yet, but we're going to find out." Luca tossed her a shirt. "Get dressed. We leave in 10 minutes. 1. The flight to Charleston was the longest of Angela's life. Luca spent most of it on the phone, barking orders, coordinating with contacts in the States. Angela sat frozen, her mind a storm of panic and rage. Her mother. Sweet, gentle, oblivious to the world Angela had fallen into. Someone had hurt her, and Angela was going to make them pay. They landed just after dawn. A car was waiting. Luca drove, pushing the speed limit, his jaw set. At the hospital, they were met by a detective, a woman in her 40s with tired eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. "Miss Varelli?" "Yes." "Where's my mother?" "ICU, 4th floor, but I need to ask you some questions first." "Later." Angela pushed past her. The detective didn't stop her. Angela found her mother's room, her heart in her throat. Inside, machines beeped steadily. Her mother lay unconscious, her face bruised and swollen, tubes running from her arms. Angela's knees buckled. Luca caught her, holding her upright. "She's stable," a nurse said quietly. "But she's not out of the woods yet." Angela crossed to the bed, her hand finding her mother's. It was cold. "Who did this?" she whispered. The detective had followed them in. "We're still investigating, but we found this at the scene." She held out an evidence bag. Inside was a playing card, the ace of spades, and written on it in red ink. "You should have stayed out of it." Angela stared at the card, her blood turning to ice. "Kozlov," she said. "Who?" the detective asked. "Viktor Kozlov, Russian arms dealer. He's dead now, but..." Angela's mind raced. His organization. Someone still out there, someone who blames us. The detective's expression shifted. "Us?" Luca stepped forward. "My fiancée and I have been dealing with some complications. Business-related. It seems someone decided to send a message." The detective's eyes narrowed. "What kind of business?" "The kind that doesn't concern you." "If it involves an attempted murder in my city, it concerns me." Luca's smile was cold. "Then I suggest you focus on finding whoever did this." "Before I do." The detective bristled, but before she could respond, a commotion erupted in the hallway. Shouting, running footsteps. A nurse burst into the room. "We need to evacuate now. There's a bomb threat." The hospital descended into chaos. Patients were wheeled out, staff scrambling, alarms blaring. Luca grabbed Angela, pulling her toward the exit. She resisted. "My mother! They'll get her! Move!" He dragged her down the stairs, through the lobby, into the parking lot. Outside, police and fire trucks were arriving, sirens wailing. Angela scanned the crowd, her pulse hammering. If this was a bomb threat, it was a distraction, which meant she saw him. A man standing across the street, watching the hospital. Tall, dark hair, wearing a jacket too heavy for the weather. His hand was in his pocket, and when their eyes met, he smiled. Then he pulled out a gun. "Luca!" Luca turned, saw the man, and shoved Angela behind a car just as the first shot rang out. The bullet hit the pavement where Angela had been standing. Luca returned fire, his gun appearing in his hand like magic. The man dove for cover, and suddenly the street was a war zone. People screaming, running, chaos everywhere. Angela's training kicked in. She pulled her own gun, smaller, concealed, and fired twice. One shot missed. The other hit the man's shoulder, spinning him around. He went down, but not before squeezing off another round. This one found its mark. Luca grunted, stumbling. Angela caught him, her heart stopping. "No, no, 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 I'm fine." His voice was strained. Blood bloomed across his side. Just a graze. That's not a graze. It's not fatal. Luca's eyes were hard. Stay here. He moved before she could stop him, crossing the street in a sprint. The gunman was trying to stand, fumbling for his weapon. Luca reached him first, kicking the gun away, then grabbing him by the throat and slamming him against a wall. Who sent you? Luca's voice was a snarl. The man spat blood. Go to hell! Luca hit him, hard. The man's head snapped back. Who sent you? You really don't know? The man laughed, a wet, choking sound. You killed the king, but the queen's still out there, and she's coming for you. Angela crossed to them, her gun trained on the man. What queen? The man's eyes shifted to her, and something like pity crossed his face. Kozlov's daughter, Irina. She's been waiting for this. Waiting for you to think you're safe. He coughed, blood trickling from his mouth. You killed her father. She's going to kill everyone you love, starting with the old woman. Angela's stomach dropped. My mother. The man smiled. Already done. Angela didn't think. She just pulled the trigger. The shot echoed through the street. The man slumped, dead. Luca grabbed her arm. Angela, we need to get back inside. They ran. Back through the lobby, up the stairs, ignoring the shouts of police and staff. Angela's lungs burned, her legs screaming, but she didn't stop. Her mother's room was empty. The bed was gone. The machine silent. A nurse appeared, her face pale. They evacuated her to another facility. She's safe. Angela's knees gave out. She would have hit the floor if Luca hadn't caught her. Where? He demanded. The nurse gave them an address. Luca was already moving, pulling Angela with him. The second hospital was smaller, more secure. Angela's mother had been moved to a private room, guards posted outside. Inside, she was still unconscious, but stable. Angela sank into a chair beside the bed, her whole body shaking. Luca stood by the window, his shirt soaked with blood from the bullet wound. He'd refused treatment, insisting they get to Angela's mother first. You need a doctor, Angela said. Later. Luca. I said later. His voice was sharp. Then he softened. I'm fine. Really. Angela didn't believe him, but she didn't have the energy to argue. A doctor appeared, checking her mother's vitals, adjusting IV drips. When he left, the room fell silent. Finally, Angela spoke. Irina Kozlov. I know. How do we stop her? Luca was quiet for a long moment. We don't. Angela looked up, her heart sinking. What? She's not going to stop. Not until we're dead. And even if we kill her, someone else will come. There's always someone else. Luca turned from the window, his expression haunted. This life. It doesn't end, Angela. Not the way you want it to. So what? We just give up? No. Luca crossed to her, knelt in front of her chair. We make a choice. We can keep fighting, keep surviving, keep watching everyone we love get hurt, or what? Luca pulled an envelope from his jacket, handed it to her. Or we disappear. Angela opened it. Inside were documents, new identities, bank accounts, plane tickets to New Zealand. I had these made weeks ago, Luca said quietly, after Rome. I started thinking, what if we could just walk away? Leave this life behind. Start over somewhere no one knows us. Angela stared at the documents, her mind reeling. You want to run. I want to live. With you. Without looking over our shoulder every second. Luca's hand found hers. I know it means giving up everything. The empire, the power, all of it. But Angela, I'm tired. I'm so tired of fighting. Angela's eyes burned with tears. What about your people? Your organization? I'll hand it over to someone I trust. Someone who can hold it together without me. Luca's voice was steady. But I won't sacrifice you, not for this, not for anything. Angela looked at her mother, lying helpless in the hospital bed. Looked at the ring on her finger. Looked at the man kneeling in front of her, bleeding and broken and still trying to save her. And she made her choice. Okay? Luca's eyes widened. Okay? Let's disappear. Angela's voice was firm. Let's walk away, together. Luca pulled her into his arms, holding her so tight she could barely breathe. You're sure? I've never been more sure of anything. They had 48 hours. Luca spent them tying up loose ends, transferring control of his organization to a lieutenant he trusted, liquidating assets, erasing digital footprints. Angela stayed with her mother, waiting for her to wake up. She did, finally, on the second day. Her eyes fluttered open, confused and frightened. When she saw Angela, relief flooded her face. "Angela?" "I'm here, Mom." Angela gripped her hand. "I'm right here." "What happened?" "Someone attacked you, but you're safe now, I promise." Her mother's eyes filled with tears. "I was so scared." "I know, but it's over now." Her mother's gaze shifted to the ring on Angela's finger. Her expression softened. "You're engaged." Angela nodded, her throat tight. "To Luca, the man I told you about. The one your father worked for." "Yes." Her mother was quiet for a moment. Then she squeezed Angela's hand. "Are you happy?" Angela thought about it, about everything she'd been through, the fear, the pain, the violence, but also the love, the partnership, the choice she'd made to stay. "Yes," she said honestly. "I am." Her mother smiled. "Then I'm happy for you." Angela's tears spilled over. "I have to go away for a while, Mom. Somewhere safe. Somewhere they can't find us." "How long?" "I don't know. Maybe forever." Her mother's smile faltered, but she didn't let go of Angela's hand. "Then you take care of yourself. And you take care of him. And you be happy." "I will." They sat together in silence, holding hands, saying goodbye without saying the words. When Angela finally left, she didn't look back. The plane left at midnight. Angela and Luca boarded under their new names, Michael and Sarah Brooks, a married couple relocating for work. No one looked twice at them. As the plane lifted off, Angela watched Charleston disappear below, the city lights fading into darkness. Luca's hand found hers. Any regrets? Angela thought about it. About the woman she'd been 6 months ago, naive, sheltered, about to marry a man who'd never loved her. About the woman she was now, scarred, dangerous, capable of terrible things. "No," she said finally. "No regrets." Luca smiled. "Good." The flight was long, 17 hours with layovers. They slept in shifts, ate bland airline food, watched the miles pile up between them and the life they were leaving behind. When they landed in Auckland, the sun was rising. A car was waiting, arranged by one of Luca's few remaining contacts. It took them north through winding roads and green hills to a house overlooking the ocean. Small, remote, perfect. Angela stepped out of the car, breathing in salt air and freedom. Luca came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "What do you think?" "I think it's home." They spent the next few days settling in, unpacking, learning the rhythm of a life without constant threat. It was strange at first, the silence, the stillness, but slowly, Angela began to relax. One morning, she woke to find Luca already up, sitting on the porch with coffee, watching the waves. She joined him, curling into his side. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "The future." "What about it?" "Whether we deserve it." Angela pulled back, looking at him. "What do you mean?" Luca's expression was troubled. "I've done terrible things, Angela. Hurt people, killed people. I'm not sure I get to just walk away and be happy." "Neither am I." Angela's voice was soft. "I killed people too. I made choices I can't take back. But we're here now, and we're alive. And we get to decide what happens next." "And what do you want to happen?" Angela thought about it, really thought about it. "I want to wake up every morning without being afraid. I want to build something good. Maybe not erase what we've done, but balance it out somehow." "How?" "I don't know yet, but we'll figure it out." Luca's smile was small, but genuine. "Together." Together. Jack. Weeks turned into months. They found a routine. Angela got a job at a local library, something quiet and normal. Luca started a consulting business, legitimate, surprisingly profitable. They made friends, tentatively, went to dinner parties, pretended to be ordinary, and slowly, impossibly, they started to believe it. One night, 6 months after arriving, they were lying in bed when Angela felt Luca's hand rest on her stomach. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Thinking." "About?" "About what comes next." Angela turned to face him. "What do you mean?" "I mean, what if we had a family?" Angela's breath caught. "A family?" "Kids. A normal life, or as normal as we can manage." Angela stared at him, her heart pounding. "You want kids?" "I want a future. With you. Whatever that looks like." Angela's eyes filled with tears. "I never thought I'd get this. After everything, I never thought I'd get to be normal." "We're not normal." Luca's smile was soft. "But we're ours. And that's enough." Angela kissed him, slow and deep. "Yes," she whispered against his lips. "Let's build a future." Pecans. A year after leaving Italy, Angela discovered she was pregnant. She told Luca over breakfast, her hands shaking. He stared at her for a long moment, then pulled her into his arms and cried. They were going to be parents. The pregnancy was smooth. Luca hovered, overprotective and anxious. Angela found it endearing, even when it drove her crazy. Their daughter was born on a rainy morning in November. Small, perfect, with Luca's eyes and Angela's determination. They named her Elena. A fresh start. Holding her for the first time, Angela felt something she hadn't felt in years. Peace. Potik. 5 years later, Angela stood on the porch of their house, watching Elena play in the yard. She was chasing butterflies, laughing, her dark curls bouncing. Luca came up behind Angela, wrapping his arms around her. "She's getting big." "Too big." Angela leaned into him. "Sometimes I can't believe this is real." "Believe it." Angela turned in his arms, looking up at him. "Do you ever miss it? The old life?" Luca considered. "Sometimes. The power, maybe. The control. But then I look at her." He nodded toward Elena. "And I realize I have more now than I ever did then." Angela smiled. "Me too." They stood in comfortable silence, watching their daughter play. Then Elena looked up, waved. "Mama! Papa! Watch this!" She did a clumsy cartwheel, laughing when she landed in the grass. Luca and Angela applauded. "Beautiful, Piccola!" Luca called. Elena beamed. Angela's chest tightened with a happiness so fierce it hurt. This was what they'd fought for, bled for, killed for. A chance at something real. And they'd won. Not with violence or power or vengeance, but with choice. The choice to walk away, to start over, to build something better from the ashes of who they'd been. Angela looked at the ring on her finger, still there after all these years. A reminder of everything they'd survived, and she made herself a promise. She would never forget where they came from, the blood they'd shed, the people they'd lost. But she wouldn't let it define them. They were more than their past. They were a family, and that was enough. That night, after Elena was asleep, Angela and Luca sat on the porch, watching the stars. "Do you think they'll ever find us?" Angela asked quietly. "Maybe." Luca's hand found hers. "But if they do, we'll deal with it. Together. Always together. Always." Angela rested her head on his shoulder, breathing in the salt air and the sound of waves and the feeling of safety she'd fought so hard to find. Somewhere out there, the world kept turning. Empires rose and fell, wars were fought and won and lost. But here, in this small corner of the world, Angela Devereaux was finally free. Not from her past. That would always be part of her, but free to choose her future. And she chose this: love, family, peace. It wasn't perfect, but it was theirs, and that made it everything. The end, Angela's story didn't end with a dramatic final battle or a last-minute twist. It ended the way most real stories do, quietly, with the understanding that survival isn't about winning. It's about choosing to keep going, even when the cost is high and the path is unclear. She'd started as a bride in a white dress, terrified and powerless. She'd become a weapon, dangerous and capable. And finally, she'd become herself, flawed, scarred, but free. Luca had started as a monster in a man's skin, cold and calculating. He'd become a partner, learning to trust and love. And finally, he'd become a father, still dangerous, still scarred, but choosing gentleness over violence whenever he could. Together, they'd built something impossible, a life worth living. And in the end, that was the greatest victory of all. Not power, not revenge, just the simple, quiet choice to be happy, even if the world said they didn't deserve it. They chose it anyway, and they won.